Hey there, Internet. I'm Annie.
I'm Lucas.
And I'm Anna.
And this is I Will Fight You, a podcast where we've been turning opinion into stone-cold facts since 1986. Anna, what is today's fact?
Today's fact is, if you go on a treasure hunt, make sure there's some actual treasure at the end. That's right, we are talking about Atlantis, the Lost Empire.
Hey, nerds, it's a Wolfpäc episode!
Ooh, Wolfpäc!
We're back. We're talking about Atlantis, the Lost Empire. No, not the television show, that's a different Atlantis, but it is still basically Stargate. No, we're talking about the Disney film, the 2001, right? 2001?
Yes,
Disney
2001,
Yes.
Disney.
Oh boy.
How about we just sound off real quick? How old were all of us in 2001?
You're gonna make me do math. I'm gonna have to pull up this fucking calculator and do math.
I'll start. I was 19 years old. I was an adult. I was old enough to vote and drink and smoke.
Okay, well, I'm like 4 years younger than you? 2001. Factor in the fact that I have a birthday in December.
Annie, you were 15.
You were a snotty teenager.
Thank you. I was 15 years old. Thank you for telling me how old I was, Anna.
Yeah.
You should know. You were there.
I just did 2001 minus 1986.
No, I know. You beat me to it. That is a sincere thank you for keeping me from having to do age math. I have a hard enough time now.
It's super easy for me. It's just 82 is like 18, so I'm just adding 18 to whatever is past the millennium, so...
Oh, lucky. God damn, that's really... Damn.
Mm-hmm.
Anna, how old were you?
I was 9 years old.
Blowing away. I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark.
You're killing us, Emmeline. Mr. Stark.
For me, this was one of the first Disney movies that I felt I was too grown up to go and see.
Oh, man.
Oh, no.
I'm at the ripe old age of 19.
A wizened elder.
Yeah, I missed Dinosaur. I took my little sister to go see Emperor's New Groove and liked it. But then it got to like Atlantis and it was like leading up to like some Treasure Planet shit. And I was just like, you know what? Maybe Disney movies aren't for me anymore. That's okay. Like, I would have watched Aladdin, and I would have watched Lion King, and all those things. I had those on VHS, and I watched them lots and lots and lots, even when I was a teenager. But I got to these ones, and I was just kind of no. And I only saw it, I think, in, like, the summer of 2002. Like, when I was back home in between university years, I watched it on tape with that same little sister, and that was the first time I'd seen it. And I went, oh, that seems okay.
Mm-hmm.
Eerily violent, though. I'm surprised how bloody this is. I'll get into that.
There's a huge body count in this.
This is something that I'm pretty sure I saw in theaters. I very strongly remember, like, the marketing blitz around this that I'll get into a little bit later. But, like, I don't think I saw it on tape. And then years later, I checked it out again because I remembered it pretty fondly. And it's fine. But this is the post-Renaissance era. I was, like, a little kid in, like, the Disney Renaissance era, so, like, spoiled for choice in terms of Disney movies. Their animation team was firing on all cylinders at that point, so, like, post-Tarzan, you get into Dinosaur, you get into Treasure Planet. It's a bit of a rocky series of films until you get to Lilo and Stitch, hooray!
Yeah, Lilo and Stitch actually brought me back.
And then you get to Chicken Little. We don't talk about Chicken Little.
I'd completely forgotten that was a Disney movie and not a DreamWorks movie.
Everyone does. That's the problem.
Shit, you're right. It's Disney. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
What about you, Anna?
Yeah, this was your pick.
Yeah, this was my pick. So I definitely didn't see it in cinemas. Side note, I can actually tell you the very first movie I saw in cinemas was The Lion King. I was 2 years old. And then I saw Toy Story in the next year. Then I didn't see any other movies in cinema until Garfield in 2004.
The live-action Garfield?
What a welcome back to the movies. Jesus Christ.
The live-action movie. This was because I had a huge family and we couldn't afford to take everyone to the movies. So I wasn't allowed to watch any movies with, like, magic in them because religious stuff. So I don't know why I was allowed to watch this. Also, the girl in a bikini thing, I wasn't allowed to watch. I don't know. I don't know what's happened with that. But somehow, against all odds, my parents got a hold of it. And we watched it numerous times at home on DVD. I think it was actually a VHS. This was my favorite Disney movie for a really, really long time. I don't think it's my favorite anymore. The slapstick kind of killed it for me. But it filled me with a sense of awe and wonder that very few movies, if any, have ever achieved since. Specifically, the mystical elements we'll get into later something about it, something resonated with me in a way that I'd never experienced in my life. And that stuck with me and affects a lot of my writing to this day. I tried to feel it again this watch through for this episode, and I didn't feel it again. So I feel a little sad, but it was formative for coloring how I write fantasy and mystery and mysticism in any kind of sense. Now, in the case of Gem Jammer, stuff like that. So this movie changed something in me. I don't know what that thing changed, but it was definitely something.
Nice. Going down into some actual, back stuff here, this movie is directed by Gary Trousdale and Kirk Wise. They both directed Beauty and the Beast, Hunchback of Notre Dame, and also, most importantly to me personally, they directed the Cranium Command pre-show movie at Epcot in Disney World. Hashtag Return Buzzy. Trousdale also wrote on Oliver and Company and Lion King, so, these are, incredibly important guys for the Disney Renaissance period. They also worked on the story, but the screenplay was written by a guy named Tab Murphy, whose initial draft was 155 pages, and the first 2 acts took 120 minutes.
I'm sorry, Luc Besson?
Why do we keep getting movies like this?
Yeah.
Luc Besson, we're not doing Valerian because you're a scumbag. Stop trying to sneak movies like this under our radar.
Yeah. It's just there's so much movie here that got cut down and smashed into a different movie. Tab wrote on Tarzan. He also worked on Hunchback. He also worked on Brother Bear.
Another forgotten Disney movie. Jeez.
Yeah, talk about it. Oh, Brother Bear is just most of what I remember of Brother Bear is when they recut some of the moose sequences into a please turn off your cell phones in the movie theater thing, because, Rick Moranis.
You gotta use your Rick Moranis when you got him.
You gotta use a Rick Moranis.
Also, I revisited Tarzan this year. Tarzan's good.
Tarzan's good. After his Disney tenure, he went on to write some of the DVD direct-to-video Batman movies for DC. And also 8 episodes of that Thundercats revival, the anime one.
The one that crossed over with Teen Titans Go?
No. That's Thundercats Roar. That's the more cartoony comedy one. This is the one that was in the mid-aughts and aired on the Toonami block in the afternoon.
Gotcha.
The very serious Thundercats.
Grr, snarl, etc. Also, noted hated figure on the podcast, Joss Whedon, did a pass on this movie during his script doctoring days, although he has said that not a lick of what he did stayed in the movie, which good. Although there's one bit I think actually did sneak through just because I recognized it. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, you'll have to point that out because I didn't pick it up.
This is also a movie that is made by a lot of the people that worked on Hunchback, not just those 2 guys. Because apparently what happened is that they had just wrapped Hunchback and they got together and they were like, well, we want to keep everybody together. Let's work on another project. Hunchback was a Fantasyland movie, they say, so let's make an Adventureland movie. That will make sense to those of you who know that Fantasyland is the part in Disneyland and Magic Kingdom and Disney World, as well as all the other various clones and permutations of that around the world. Fantasyland is where you have, it hugs the central castle. You've got your princess rides, your Pinocchio, carousel, there's a Sword in the Stone. Adventureland is all tropical adventures. It's a lot of Pacific Islands inspired stuff because that was really popular when they were building Disneyland. That's where you get your swashbuckling stories. You've got Enchanted Tiki Room, Jungle Cruise. In Florida, you've got Pirates of the Caribbean, and in California, you've got Indiana Jones.
Right, yeah, that makes sense.
The birds sing words and the flowers bloom in the tiki room.
We love a tiki room. Though it's funny that this actually doesn't have anything to do with the Tomorrowland over in Disney Paris, which is all Jules Verne themed. It looks amazing. It's the coolest Tomorrowland in any of the parks.
The genre of this movie is science adventure in the way of the pulps, in the way of H.G. Wells and Jules Verne. But this is actually a weird kind of smush of parts of Wells' science fiction and parts of Jules Verne science fiction. There's Jules Verne stuff in that there's lots of fantastic machines, and we hear a lot about how the bits and pieces work and the kind of the geology of the place they're going to. But it's H.G. Wells in that there's actually a story and you can follow it, and it's not just talking about rocks for 2 goddamn chapters. And it's about what the characters can do with that technology. They can use that technology to attempt to further their goals. And there's some social messaging in there and stuff. So, also, I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but Wells good, Verne bad.
You've heard it here. We've got the blistering hot take about Jules Verne v. H.G. Wells here on I Will Fight You in the Year of Our Lord 2025.
Oh my god.
I was so mad at Journey to the Center of the Earth. It's such a bad book. They literally argue about having to bring water on an expedition.
Oh, no.
The leader of the expedition is like, you don't need water. Water makes you weak.
These are like the people who really enjoy encumbrance rules in Dungeons and Dragons.
Do not become addicted to water, my friend.
I'm going to get a lot of posts and replies about encumbrance rules being good, actually. I don't care. Don't at me.
And he's correct. It's just how it is.
That's just how it is. That's what the whole podcast is. These are facts.
But essentially, this movie is an action movie. It's meant to be an action movie for kids. There are guns. There are explosions. People talk about death. People talk about wanting to kill each other or talk about getting killed.
The line, "we're getting killed out here," is straight up said.
Yes, to the point where I was thinking of watching this with my kid, and probably lucky that he went, you know what, I'd rather just watch SpongeBob after watching that trailer. So I'm fine with that, because some of the later parts of this movie get rough.
Yeah, and this is in such an interesting period in Disney animation history, because this is in our, like, post-musicals era, which, as we all know, came to a screeching halt in the middle of Mulan when a jaunty marching song about cute girls got cut off due to the massacre of a village.
God.
And then we had, like, a brief Phil Collins phase, but we didn't really do music again until Princess and the Frog. You have all these films that are doing stuff that are divorced from music. If there is music, it's non-diegetic. And it's weird because it feels like Disney is trying and experimenting a lot with a lot of these films that they've been trying to make for years and finally throw together that have, like, an identity that doesn't quite feel like Disney. I use Emperor's New Groove as an example here because I love that movie. It's a fantastic movie. It feels like a Warner Brothers picture.
Yes, very much so.
I always thought Emperor's New Groove was DreamWorks, to be honest.
Nope, that's a Disney flick.
Straight up a Disney.
Yeah, and it was El Dorado that was DreamWorks.
Yes. It feels like a Warner Brothers flick. Like, it feels like it should be made by the same people that made Cats Don't Dance, which is also fantastic. Atlantis is so indicative of this era to the point where the crew actually wore t-shirts.
Oh, yeah, the shirts.
Yeah, they had t-shirts. Atlantis, fewer songs, more explosions.
Are there explosions? Holy crap.
Oh, are there ever explosions?
One or two. I thought I had was that often when you find experimental stuff like this, it is indicative of a nascent medium. So something new has come about. Now, animation itself is not really new. It's, by the time of this, it's well established. But there were new technologies at play that may have been what prompted them to get just so experimental, namely computer generation, CGI, and internet marketing. Those fit well into this, such an experimental movie. They thought, we'll take this new technology and we'll do something different with it.
Somewhat, because, like, you had Treasure Planet, which was one of the ones that, like, they had been trying to make for, like, a decade or so, was, like, a real passion project that used a lot of the CGI stuff, and often it feels like it kind of took up so much time and budget that they didn't have time to sort of make the rest of the story as strong as it needed to be, and maybe that's part of what happened with Atlantis.
This is more than just like the green smoke in the Black Cauldron or the lava in Aladdin or the wildebeest in the Lion King. Like, this is like fully rigged vehicles and sets and designs and everything. This is one where, and let me just say this off the bat, the production section of this Wikipedia page
It's so long.
It's so long.
It's
so detailed. It would take an entire Fifth Element episode length episode of the podcast just to talk about some of the pre-production stuff. We're going to hit a few beats here, but honestly, if you're interested, go read it. Disney people are lunatics. Complimentary. We can smell our own, okay?
We just can't cover it all.
Speaking very quickly about some of the production design stuff, kind of spitting out of the 3D stuff. So y'all ever hear of Mike Mignola? He made a Hellboy.
Yeah, he made a Hellboy. You ever heard of a Hellboy?
Oh yeah, Heck Boy. I know Heck Boy.
Yeah.
He has eaten the pancake he will never return to us now?
Yeah. What? Is that a monkey? He's got a gun.
Blam blam!
That Hellboy.
Yeah, Mike Mignola, the guy who has the most, like, economy of line in terms of, like, his artistic style that just blows basically everybody else out of the water with comics. Holy shit.
his style was so influential. I feel like it's like a chicken and egg thing because they brought him on as a production designer only to realize there had been a meeting where everyone had been brought into a room and told, you see this? And they slap a Hellboy down on the table and they go, draw like this guy. To the point where he went in and he was looking at the character designs and he said something like, I really love the big square hands you draw. And the animator went, yeah, well, they're your hands. They had a meeting and they said, draw the hands like this guy draws the hands. And Mignola went, oh.
Like, how good is that? Imagine all of these animators sitting around yelling about Mike Mignola's hands, which is a correct thing to do because holy shit, the way that guy draws hands.
Square fingertips.
Oh, and the little triangles for the fingernails.
Yes.
The entire drawing of your person should be a triangle from head to feet with the widest part. Milo has a big coat like Hellboy for this very reason.
Yes!
And it works so well with the turn of the century style technology, both the real stuff and the like imagined, projected, invented technology that's in this. The angular style is perfect for it.
Yeah, like you know how Chris Sanders' stuff always looks like circular and puffed out? Everything looks angular and triangular and sharp in this movie.
And you're also talking about, like, Mike Mignola, who does such incredible works with just black and white. His shadows are so expertly done, and you're in this gigantic setting full of, like, bright light and dark shadows, in caves, in underwater settings, in areas that are surrounded by glowing lava flow. It's great.
It's so good.
Okay, so there's this whole thing. Like, you see this on a lot of the marketing and, like, the title card and everything. There's a pictographic language. The whole movie's about, like, a lost language. And listen, they wanted the Atlanteans to speak a language that in the story is a mother tongue, you know, so, like, all other languages will share a root with this. So in order to do that, they contact this linguist named Mark Ockrand, whose professional work is in Native American languages. His thesis, for example, was about the grammar of a language spoken by the indigenous people in what's now Northern California. And also he invented this little fake language, just almost for funsies, something that nobody's ever heard of, called Klingon!
Kapla!
You have not experienced Shakespeare until you have read him in the original Klingon.
This movie is the invention of a patak.
You have to understand that linguists are operating a completely separate plane of existence from all other human beings.
This is represented in the movie.
Yeah, like, Mark Ockrand not only made a language that sounds like it could be a mother language based in Indo-European traditions, but largely based in Sumerian and indigenous North American languages. Like, he did all that. There's a Wikipedia page for this language alone. It's got its own grammatical structure, reading methodology, which is left to right, then right to left, then left to right, writing systems, numerical suffixes, fully conjugated pronoun sets, multiple sets of conditional tenses, but also Ockrand would just straight up start changing sounds around if it started sounding too much like a real language. Like, we saw it in Tolkien, folks. We see it with Ockrand. Linguists are a highly specialized breed of bananas, and I have so much respect for them.
You're so right.
He designed the equivalent of the letter A to be a map. It is the design of the city with promontory in the middle, and the dot in the A is where they find the crystal.
Yeah. There's a separate guy that did the actual, like, characters in the alphabet, which is, you know, your full, like, 26 plus a couple of consonant combinations.
And while we step away from this high-minded view for a second, I just want to remind y'all that the intro for this movie, the cataclysm that takes out Atlantis, it was drawn on a bar napkin in a strip club.
It was, actually.
Yes. Yeah, because they had a separate opening that they actually chopped up and put into one of the promotional things. And then they were like, this doesn't work, so let's just show the cataclysm instead. And, like, one of the guys goes back to, like, a strip club. And he's just like, all right, let me do some revisions here.
It's fine. And anything's a canvas if you're artistic enough, right?
This is where I get my flow state going. Also, they have a very reasonable lunch buffet.
The wings are great.
The only thing weirder than a, hey, let's all go together to the strip club guy is a, I'm going to go to the strip club on my lunch break guy.
The wings are great, and so are the legs.
Okay, marketing, though, like...
Marketing time. Hit it, Annie.
We keep circling around that one real quick. I cannot stress enough just how big the marketing felt for this movie. It hit all the buttons of, like, this is something huge and mysterious, and you'll have never seen anything like it, and you never will again. They used that clip of Atlantis is waiting so often. This is the first time Disney used, like...
Gabbo.
What's Gabbo?
I figure it's some guy's name. Some guy named Gabbo.
This is the first time Disney used online marketing, because this is 2001, and y'all, there was a tie-in video game, and, like, it wasn't just a side-scrolling platformer, or, like, the tie-in video game for the movie Beastly.
Which one, Annie? You have to say which one.
Which Lucas sent me copies of.
Both of them.
Both of them. There were two.
The DS and the Wii version.
God. Not like that. No, this was a prequel. This is a prequel to the movie Atlantis, because they talk about, like, we went to go find the Shepherd's Journal, and then you play a little video game that's not very good, but you exchanged it for Atlantis cereal box top UPCs, so I don't know what you expected, where you play as one of the field operatives who find the Shepherd's Journal, and you fight off Icelandic cultists with energy guns that shoot, like, ice beams, or, like, orange globs, or, like, lightning.
It's a very bad FPS. They gave this away at pharmacies. They put it on the front of magazines. Mm-hmm. It was like the first, I think, 3 levels was listed as a separate game. And then when the game finally launched, it's like, oh, by the way, that demo, that was the first 3 levels of the game.
Yeah. They put that cut opening for this movie, which originally opened with a bunch of Vikings trying to find Atlantis and getting ate by a Leviathan. Spoilers.
Y'all going a Viking? Y'all going a Viking got eaten by a lobster? Sucks to be you, man.
Yeah, you know, the Vikinger. They get ate by lobster.
Oh my god.
If only they had Antonio Banderas with him. This is not the last time that the 13th Warrior is going to come up in this movie.
And so, like, they just slap that at the beginning of the video game to be like, hey, so you're hyped now, right? All right, time to go shoot an Icelandic cultist.
Who apparently had access to the crystal magic before anyone else did.
Yeah, you know.
As you do.
It's fine.
But there was like a website with a bunch of mini games. There was like, now this is something where I really had trouble researching this, right? Mm-hmm. Because they say there was a game available through, quote, mobile network operators.
Yeah.
Right? With no details. And I went searching 4 articles deep to find the source of this. And it's a book.
Oh, shit.
That I am not paying to borrow. So I am one of the few in this call mm-hmm. who had a mobile phone before 2001. I remember the games that were on it, and I have no idea how an Atlantis game would have been done, except for in like a text adventure or something.
Yeah, those were like, were they even color screens on the inside yet, or were they just like LCDs?
No, it was like LCD screens like a calculator.
Yeah, my dad used to have one of those Nokia bricks that I played Snake on and Space Invaders.
This was before even that. Like, this was, yeah.
Oh, you know, maybe it was something they only did in like Japan, because Japan's cell phones surpassed us so much in the early days.
Like, I had a turn-based, like, text fight game where you would, like, pick a different fighter and choose whether you wanted high, middle, or low attack, or whether you wanted to defend, and you would just try to, like, outthink the computer that way. That was the level it was on. There were no pictures or anything of it.
Jesus Christ.
The games on my graphing calculator were better than the games on my cell phone.
They didn't even have Doom on this shit.
They didn't even have Doom on it.
Like we said, if you want more, go to the Wikipedia article because those nerds have you covered.
They basically transcribed the special features on the DVD.
They've transcribed the whole movie.
Yeah, so meanwhile, these nerds here on this call, we gotta talk about a cataclysm. We gotta talk about a dead mom.
Oh, a dead mom who died on a strip club napkin.
Oh, don't put it like that. Dude, totally put it like that.
Actually, no, scratch that. Before we go on, I gotta shout about a voice cast.
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
Oh, I gotta hit it.
Go.
So, first and foremost, right up front, Michael J. Fox as Milo, and he's so fucking good in this movie. He's so good.
The man himself.
God, he is the man who instantly, you like him. You have pathos for him. You want him to do okay. He does some, like, during some of the action bits, he does some full Marty McFly jumping from a flying DeLorean onto a train yells, right?
Yeah.
It's true.
He's so earnest and keen and nerdy as Milo in a character that could have been a joke about how he's a nerd. Mm-hmm. There are some, but you like him and you want to be with him. Kira, the princess, is voiced by Cree Summer. You remember hear of a character called Elmira?
Yeah.
You ever hear Max from Batman Beyond? That's Cree Summer. Cree Summer has an incredibly iconic voice.
Ow! Could you get your ear out of my eye? All those billions, and you think he could afford a back seat.
That's like 1% of Cree Summers' roles. She's in everything.
She's really prolific.
Her dad was also a voice actor, and she has a very specific kind of, I don't actually know the wording for it. It's like almost like vocal fry. She has an incredibly distinctive voice.
Cree Summer is one of the primary, like, black voice actresses that we've had in the industry since, like, the 80s, I think.
Then as one of the supporting cast turned antagonists, you've got James Garner. Rockford is in this movie.
Yeah.
The Scrounger from The Great Escape, Maverick.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you guys go back to Disneyland and leave me alone, huh?
An incredible voice. And then here's where I get really crunchy with my voice actor nerdiness. Don Novello is Vinny. He plays Vinny Santorini. He's the demolitions expert. He was an SNL guy. He played one character for 17 years.
Oh!
Father Guido Sarducci.
Oh, no shit.
I keep having this a dream, once a week. I don't know how many weeks I've been having this a terrible nightmare.
He played this character from 1978 to 1995.
Holy shit.
That's so long.
That's all he did.
On SNL, of all things.
Yeah, he would come in on a Weekend Update, and he'd do a little bit where Jane Curtin would be like, and now for an update on this thing, we have Father Guido Sarducci. And he's like sort of this like scammer priest. He's like, gas prices means the take in the shrine is going down. So what we're going to do is we're going to invent the Shrine Mobile. I have a friend who has all these trucks that aren't doing much. If we doll them up, we take the shrine to you.
Oh my God.
17 years he did this.
Okay, who else we got?
Holy shit, you guys, sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I got to reel back. I just found something that I know that Cree Summers in. She was Macarva in the 2006 video game Black, which only I know.
There you go.
That Macarva was the cool lady operative.
Yeah. Also, Don Novello, apparently, when he looked at the script, he read every one of the scripted lines exactly once, and then he improv for 15 minutes, and you could tell.
He's got a very specific way of, I'm reading a line, and then I'm going to go into the improv section. There's very distinct pivot in all his lines.
Well, that's the thing. Apparently none of the line reads actually, like, none of the actual line reads made it in.
No, because he's a very funny man.
Yeah.
Speaking of funny people, Phil Morris is Dr. Sweet. Now, Phil Morris, you might remember from a little show called Seinfeld. He was Kramer's lawyer, Jackie Childs, who's like a Johnny Cochran impersonator.
It's totally inappropriate. It's lewd, salacious, outrageous.
He's so fast and so funny.
Like, the animators had to, like, work to keep up with his line delivery because they didn't want to change a thing about it. So his character, as a result, just speaks very quickly, moves very quickly. It's like he doesn't have any tweens.
So I want both of you to go and look at the chat, because also Florence Stanley plays Mrs. Packard, who is extremely deadpan, like a lunch lady Doris style character. She was also in a movie called Day of the Dolphin that I've put the poster for into the chat. I'm going to wait for a live react on that.
I'm just going to read this. Unwittingly, he trained a dolphin to kill the President of the United States.
Old movies are cool.
Hey, are any of those dolphins busy?
They can't be doing much. But I mean, also...
They're still around?
Are they free? Because listen. Are those dolphins? Can they still do it?
Can anyone do the flipper noise?
Can they still kill a president of the United States? Asking for a friend.
Running through real quick the rest of this list. So you've got John Mahoney, a.k.a. Martin Crane from Frasier, as Preston Whitmore.
I've been having these great ideas all day. I wrote some of them down. Here. Dog Army.
You've got Jim Varney in his last role, playing like a cartoon prospector cook. You've got Leonard Nimoy as the King of Atlantis. You've got David Ogden Stiers as one of the board members. But my big get, and I'm going to flip on the big switch that says Lucas is a Transformers tragic.
Here we go.
Let's go.
Corey Burton plays Mole. Corey Burton was Shockwave.
Fear not, Megatron. Cybertron shall remain as you leave it.
Corey Burton was Brawn.
No one calling me a robot chicken!
Corey Burton was Spike.
Hey, tell me more about Cybertron.
He was Spike.
Here's what I love about Corey Burton. One of the things he's also done in recent years is he's like basically a Christopher Lee impersonator, because not only does he do a lot of the Count Dooku stuff for any Star Wars property, but he also is, of course, everyone's favorite Christopher Lee character, yours and mine, Ansem the Wise.
You were not the visitor I expected.
That's the second Ansem, the one who's dressed up like a mummy in the Kingdom Hearts series. Also Yensid.
If we are ever to strike down Xehanort, we need the individuals King Mickey spoke of in his letter.
Oh my gosh.
He also does any of the modern Captain Hook stuff as well.
That rules.
Lot of good people in this movie doing a lot of good voice work, is what I'm saying.
And you even just get like incidentals. Like you've got a Jim Cummings in here too, doing like 2 or 3 different little guys.
A lot of your additional voices in there. Who's kicking around? Who's got half an hour and 15 voices in them?
The guys who were just on the lot that day.
Jim Cummings catching his smoke between Rescue Rangers episodes. Like, I'll do it.
Rescue Rangers? What the fuck are you talking about? They didn't make Rescue Rangers in 2000.
A lot of things we don't know out there, Annie.
No, Jim Cummings is just constantly, he's like Pete the Cat as well as like 10 other characters. He's Winnie the fucking Pooh. He was doing Winnie the Pooh that day.
There we go. That makes more sense.
Actually, he probably actually was doing Winnie the Pooh that day because they were also making that Winnie the Pooh movie around this time. The one that was also going to be one of their 2D animated projects, and they released it on the same weekend as one of the Harry Potter last movies.
Oof, oof.
Yeah, it does have that good bit about how you cannot not. Can you? I cannot. That's from that movie.
Can you tie a knot?
I cannot.
Ah, so you cannot.
No, I cannot not.
Not?
Who's there?
Pooh?
Pooh who?
No, Pooh with...
Oh, yeah, that is a good one. That is a good joke.
If you got the time, go check out the Wikipedia on this voice acting, because there's so much good shit there.
Yeah, we got to come back to this mum dying.
Right. So...
Yeah, because we're 40 minutes into the recording.
We said we weren't going to do this.
In a single day and night of misfortune, the island of Atlantis disappeared in the depths of the sea. Plato, 360 BC. What a pretentious-ass way to start a cartoon movie.
Right?
I love it.
Hey, you know Plato? Plato's in this movie.
You know Plato?
Y'all like Plato, right? Kids love a Plato. You know Plato.
And God, the first 2 minutes of this movie have so fucking much going on.
Can I jump in as a parent here right now?
Yes.
You know what kids love? Kids love, especially the under 10s.
Plato?
They love Plato. They love prologues where a language other than English is being spoken and subtitles. Because remember, some of them can't read super fast. And also, they love a bunch of stuff happening that you can't explain. I can imagine being in the theater with my son and him being like, who's that? Who's that? What's happening? Why are they dying? What's that big boom? Why are they falling over? What's going on? And it's like, no, have you met a child before? Disney animator.
You're describing my experience of watching the Star Wars Holiday Special.
It's not even B. Arthur to make us feel better.
Oh my God.
Also, Corey Burton voiced Boba Fett in the Ewoks show and in the holiday special.
There you go. It's all connected. So here's the sea. Here's a big explosion with a big wave. Here's some flying ships diving into a big city trying to warn people. There's alarms to get people to shelters. And we see the king of Atlantis, the queen, and a little girl who has a doll.
Of course, she's got to drop the doll and reach back for the doll.
But honey, there's no time.
And of course, her mum has to grab her and say, no, sweet, we gotta go, which is taking longer than just picking her up and running.
Yeah. I'm picking that kid up and I am booking it for the shelters.
Unfortunately, she has to stay around so she can get found by a big blue spotlight.
She's been chosen.
Yeah, because there's a weird energy thing in the sky that's shooting out lights everywhere, and one of the lights lands on her, and it's like, hey, I'm gonna zap you now.
Guess what you're an accessory to?
It's like, oh, let's see. Oh, found her. Hey, you get over here, honey. Honey, come here. Come here, hon.
I can't make this joke 2 Wolfpacks in a row. You've been selected for a random bag check.
And you get to bring your daughter's bangle with you. That's allowed.
Yeah, it slips off of the kid's wrist as she's lifted up and the dad takes her away.
Yeah, and she just turns around. Her eyes go wide. They start glowing. She's wearing a crystal pendant that starts floating up too, and she just ascends into the sky until she gets absorbed by a big blue orb.
Yeah, for Lower Decks fans, she sees the koala.
Why is he smiling? What is he now?
There's a koala there. But then her power raises the shields around the middle part of the city, and we see those shields physically cut in half some of the escaping ships and people getting caught on the other side and banging on it. It's brutal.
Yeah, they're pounding.
Yeah, and these are like magic energy shields.
Yeah, they're pounding on it. They're desperate.
They're fucking magic.
There is a giant wave crashing towards them. They are going to die.
And then when we say giant, it is like 40 stories tall.
Yeah.
There's a surprising amount of scenes in this movie where people are running towards a safe zone and a shield cuts them off, letting some people through, but a few people just left outside to die. This happens at least twice in this movie.
Yeah. Kita's father, within the safety of the dome, takes this girl, grabs her, tells her not to look, as the city around them is destroyed by colossal waves. The center of it, surrounded by a dome, just sinks beneath the sea.
This is the kind of thing where, just like in flood coverage on the news, where you're reminded that a square meter of water weighs a ton.
Mm-hmm. Title card!
Real quick, notably, he says don't watch the light. He watches the light himself, and there is a very bright flash, and we'll see the consequence of that later.
Oh, I never made that connection.
And then we get the title card in the Atlantic language, and then the letters flip over into English characters.
And we skip ahead to Washington, D.C. in the year 1914.
Root of all evil.
Let's get a little bit of context. What was happening in 1914, ostensibly towards the end of the year?
Just a little bit of a
Dateline 1914. There's a war on in Europe.
Yeah, a few nations are bickering.
Field Marshal Haig wants to move his drinks cabinet 1 mile closer to Berlin.
The United States doesn't want any of that.
That's not our business.
Doing their own thing. It's the Europeans that you can get out.
Here's the thing. The Great War has happened, and Europe is like, oh, this will be great. We're just going to have a good old-fashioned war. We'll be done by Christmas. It's totally fine. And the United States over here, who has just gone through the Civil War, where we have Gatling guns now, are looking over at Europe like, I wouldn't do that, man. Not my fucking problem, though.
All your old tactics about warfare? Yeah, they don't work anymore. Technology's changed.
Yeah,
Everyone's gonna fucking die.
Y'all want to see what a Maxim gun does to your nice straight lines?
Not gonna be great.
It ain't pretty.
Not gonna be great. The U.S. does not enter World War I until 1917.
Yeah, so we fly through a museum, we go past some dinosaur skeletons. There is one with a horn on its nose, although I checked, it's not an iguanodon, because that would have been debunked about 30 years earlier, so I think it's meant to be a ceratosaurus or something. I thought for a moment it would be sick to have one of the old iguanodon skeletons where they put the thumb horn on the nose.
It would be pretty funny if they had some of those wrong skeletons.
That would be.
Especially considering that Aladar, the iguanodon from Dinosaur, voiced by D.B. Sweeney, the hunky boy from The Cutting Edge.
Especially considering this scene of dinosaurs is literally 1, maybe 2 seconds long.
Oh yeah, that reminds me real quick, also a credit on this, the score of this movie is actually done by the guy who did Dinosaur's score because they heard it and they liked it and they were like, we're not going to be able to have characters sing how they feel, so we're going to need someone who actually does a score to inform the audience how they should be feeling about the things going on screen.
It's a pretty good score, I tell you what.
It's a good score.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Actually, and do I need to see Dinosaur? Is it any good?
No, it's not good. It's not good at all. It's extremely brown.
God.
So, we cut to a standard issue Disney brand gangly nerd. Y'all remember Ichabod Crane?
Oh, yeah.
What if he was yassified?
Yassified Ichabod! Holy shit!
Oh my god.
Oh, and that was Bing fucking Crosby, too. That was the only reason that all the women in town would have any interest in this man.
What that nose do, Ichabod Crane?
What that nose do, Ichabod?
I'm so sorry. All I can think of is the 2010s TV show Sleepy Hollow.
That actually was a yassified Ichabod, that's true.
That's fuckable Ichabod Crane.
That's incredibly fuckable Ichabod Crane.
That's fuckable Crane.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so this nerd is saying, well, everyone knows Atlantis is a fantasy. What my theory presupposes is, maybe it's not.
What if it wasn't, though? Huh? How about that?
What if actually some really implausible translation errors happened and it was a totally real place?
Yeah. What about that?
Because when you're translating stuff, you can take the R out of Ireland and replace it with the C of Iceland, and that makes sense in translating.
Yeah!
Absolutely cannot do this, my guy.
That's just what Fulark is like.
It is just straight up a violation of all rules of translating. What is wrong with you?
Okay, but listen. Milo's been studying dead languages since he was a child, so who are you to say that he's wrong?
Oh shit, you're right. I only know, like, fragments of languages that aren't English. I have nothing on this.
Yeah. What if, though?
He also declares that Atlantis had a power source that was more powerful than steam or coal. Milo, steam comes from coal.
What if? What if it was more powerful than our internal combustion engine? What if?
And notably, he says that the way to Atlantis has been lost, except for this one dude who wrote it all down in something called the Shepherd's Journal.
I actually really like the slide he has here of the illuminated manuscript. It's good.
It's pretty.
He's pulled in sources from all over the world and is doing that thing like they do in, movies like, what was it, Alien vs. Predator and stuff, where they're like, oh, it's bits from all these different languages. If you put them all together, it leads to a thing. But then he gets a phone call. And we think, why would there be a phone in this lecture hall? And he has to, jump over his flip-over blackboard to get it. And then it's revealed that he is, in fact, not presenting to people. He's presenting to a bunch of mannequins.
He put hats on them.
And he's actually the janitor. He manages the boiler, and the boiler's all messed up, so he whacks it with a wrench and it works fine now.
He Fonzies this boiler.
He even answers the phone cartography and linguistics, so it's unclear if he actually is the boiler room guy or if they just shoved him in the boiler room and, well, he's already down there.
We're gonna need you to take your desk and move down to the basement.
Milo fucked with the boiler. He's really good at it. He's like, yeah, that's great. Okay, great, thanks. Anyway, gentlemen, he says, addressing the skeleton in a hat.
But then he gets a pneumatic tube mail.
Oh, love a pneumatic tube.
What happens is his meeting's been moved from 4:30 to 3:30. He's told this at 4:05.
Oh, yeah. Your meeting has been moved from 4:30 to 3:30. You have missed your meeting. Your proposal has been rejected. Your car has been impounded. Your car has been crushed into a cube. You have 30 minutes to move your cube.
Hello, Mr. Burns' office.
Is it about my cube?
I saw a Nissan Cube parked in an express parking zone, and I was like, oh god, is it about your cube?
Every time I see one of those things, is it about my cube? So we cut to the board, who are a bunch of stuffy old men in big winter coats that are congratulating themselves on avoiding Milo again because they're so fucking tired of hearing about Atlantis. This group is also 60% Jim Cummings by volume.
And David Unckensteyer's up the front.
Yeah.
Yes, stuffy old man.
But of course, Milo finds them and chases them down while dropping maps everywhere and wearing a pith helmet.
They scatter like roaches.
Like an incredibly determined Jehovah's Witness. He's like, I am giving you this pamphlet.
Oh, you're so right.
You will welcome Jesus into your life, goddammit. To the point where Milo runs down the street and throws himself onto the hood of the car.
And he threatens to resign if they don't fund his Atlantis expedition, which this time will work.
Yeah, it'll definitely work this time.
Oh god, how many times have you gone to Atlantis, Milo?
How many times has it been, Milo?
How many times?
God, right?
That's the thing, though. They have to spend the money in the budget. Otherwise, it won't be in the budget next year. He's a walking boondoggle, this boy.
But apparently they found other things to spend it on because they're like, you know what? Yeah, you can resign. While you're at it, take this coin and go commit suicide. That is literally
no, they don't.
The sentiment that the guy
he's not
says.
telling him to commit suicide. He is saying go jump in a lake and jump in a river, clear your head.
Does read a bit like, hey, take a coin, kill yourself.
It reads a bit like go jump off a bridge and kill yourself, but he's not actually saying that.
Oh, but they do say that we don't want you to quit because, quote, winter is coming, we'll need you for the boiler.
Yeah, you're so important. You're so important and integral to us.
You're a vital part of this organization.
The boiler is very fussy.
It's just a temperamental little baby. So anyway, he goes home all dejected. He's really sad. He stumbles into his house. His cat doesn't come when he calls. The light won't switch on when he pulls the switch. But then...
Cue the sleazy saxophone, everybody! Helga's here!
Helga strikes this movie.
Take it away, Annie.
Oh, Helga. Dressed in this slinky dress for no particular reason except to make me go, awooga, awooga, go pretty!
You better get the best for me.
She has a strap that never stays on her shoulder for the entire movie.
It never stays on.
It's constantly falling down. Her hair is always right on the point of escaping.
She's got it in this braid. She's this tall, statuesque blonde. She's got a beauty mark that's in that one of those stylized, because of the way this movie works, triangles right underneath her eye. She's got amazing shoulders. And she's just like, how did you get into my home? I let myself down the chimney. Ho, ho, ho. No reason.
Punctuated by her sliding her shawl off her shoulders in a very sensual way.
No reason is she like this, and yet... she's like, my employer has a most intriguing proposition for you. It's like, who's your employer? Meanwhile, at stately Wayne Manor...
Smash cut.
Meanwhile, at this Charles Foster Kane-ass house...
Like, this whole scene lasts less than a minute because we just smash cut straight to this mansion on a stormy night.
Yeah, this is a good time to point out that the first maybe 20 minutes of this movie, it's like one of those old wooden train wrecks where every train car is telescoped from behind and smashed into nothing by the car directly behind it, which is then smashed into nothing by the next one. Those cars are scenes, and the thing being destroyed is your ability to follow from one to the other, because it's just like, boom, gotta go to the next thing, boom, go to the next thing.
This movie goes.
The pacing is insane.
The pacing of this movie is wild because it happens so much for the first, half hour of the movie, and then it hits a wall, and then just sort of hangs out languidly, and you're looking around like, what the fuck?
Like a hot lady on a chair with a fur on her shoulders.
Yeah, so Annie, you're good about this stuff, right?
Uh-huh.
To me... the inside of this house looked like, was it not the Haunted Mansion, but the Tower of Terror, I want to say?
I would say that there's a lot of design sensibilities here that they have in common with the Hollywood Tower Hotel interior, yeah.
Yeah, it's like they're these gigantic plush interiors that also seem incredibly empty and haunted, and they're huge. Like, there's a bit where Milo, there's a fire and some chairs in front of it, but you see Milo cross this entire room, and it takes forever, even with Helga hurrying him and telling him, all this stuff about how he should stand up straight and not speak until he's spoken to. You call him Sir or Mr. Whitmore.
Oh, yeah. No, I got this one.
You go.
They're in this elevator after this very intimidating foyer, and she's like, you will address him as Mr. Whitmore or Sir. You will stand unless asked to be seated. Keep your sentences short and to the point. Are we clear? And relax. He doesn't bite. Often. While she's just tidying him up.
In this tiny elevator about 2 inches in front of his face.
This is a deeply intimidating woman.
Of course, 2 seconds later, we meet Mr. Whitmore, and he's the complete opposite of everything she described.
Yeah, she just wanted to fuck with him.
This is a Disney brand old man. This is Shorty from Tangled, if he was really into yoga.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody get me a glass, because I just found me a tall drink of water.
And incredibly wealthy.
And only wore a dressing gown.
Yeah, this is John Mahoney. This is Martin Crane. So the whole delivery of this is brusque, in a hurry. There's a kind of a Teddy Roosevelt vibe to it almost. Yeah,
you're right. That very it sounds like he is already working along a script that he has rehearsed several times, and he's really just waiting for Milo to fill in the blanks and here's where you say something.
Milo is kind of absorbing all of this. Oh, we didn't mention, actually, that Milo had a picture of his grandfather.
Yes.
That he looked at before he left his office, which was a little kid right. Milo sitting on this, pith-helmeted British Army explorer-type guy. Mm-hmm. Grandpa shot some Zulus kind of thing. And at one point, it turned into a little, newsreel of, kid Milo trying on the pith helmet and stuff. And so this was a very important person to him. And Mr. Whitmore knew that his grandfather.
Yeah, because Milo will tell us later that his parents died when he was young. He was raised by his grandfather. This is pretty much his sole living family. And Whitmore is honestly very fond of him as well. He says that Thaddeus essentially died kind of a broken man because those same men that laughed at Milo earlier and told him to just go clear his head in the Potomac also laughed out Thaddeus. They broke him. He was depressed. He was sad. He felt like no one believed him. And Whitmore was basically so close to his friend that he was like, I am going to do everything I can to bring back one scrap of proof to make it worth it. Maybe they held hands a little earlier when they were younger?
When they were doing yoga together, perhaps.
Yeah. Maybe when he won a bet that Whitmore found the Shepherd's Journal, and then he not only had to fund this entire expedition to find Atlantis, but to kiss him square in the mouth.
That is text. That is not subtext. And he's not making that up.
No. Kissed him square in the mouth.
That actually is said in the movie.
There's a funny photograph of both of them going like, blah, afterwards.
Cowards. Show the actual kiss itself.
Smushing these two old men together and saying, now kiss.
Old man, yowie! Old man, yowie!
So, he then presents Milo with the Shepherd's Journal.
Apparently Thaddeus found it years ago and said, if anything ever happened to me, give it to Milo when Milo's ready. To which Whitmore is like, whatever the hell that meant.
And specifically, to prove Milo right, he says that he did in fact find it not in Ireland, but in Iceland, because Milo's translation was correct.
Hooray for Milo!
And like a dork, Milo immediately punches the air and he's like, yes, I f***ing knew it!
I love this skinny-ass nerd. He's such a dork.
Eat shit, Bembridge scholars.
And straight away Whitmore starts saying, yeah, well, you found this, but you can't do anything with it. The people at the museum, they'll never believe you. You can't go on your own. You don't have a crew. You don't have a ship. You don't have funding. And Milo's like...
And 4 white knights will never be 4 white horses. Such father all infidelity of courses. Impossible. Etc.
Annie, I love you so much. And he basically says, you know what? Fuck this. Fuck you. Fuck everyone. I will go there if I have to rent a rowboat and paddle there myself to find Atlantis.
And because these daft and deviant dopes keep building up impossible hopes impossible, things are happening every day. It's the same beat. No, you fucking can't. And he's got, well, fine, I will.
And Whitmore says, that is what I wanted to hear. I can see you're committed, but forget the rowboat. We are going in style. And he pushes a button.
Yeah, so in that scene, in that 1 second, Preston Whitmore's whole face changes. It's the same face, but the lighting and the shadow changes. And he goes from a goofy old man to this very sharp and very focused, keenly intelligent old man. You've just flipped a switch on.
It is great.
This happens with these designs throughout this movie. Mm-hmm. Depending on the lighting, they can turn on a dime, and we will get to that later.
And this is also just such a well-lit scene, too, because they've moved from in front of the warm colors in front of this fireplace to this table that he has stretched out in front of this aquarium that, by the way, has 2 coelacanths in it.
Right?
Yes, coelacanths that were not discovered for another 25 years.
Yeah! That rules.
That's so cool.
God, it's delightful. And so the lighting is really moody and blue from the water and the light coming through it. It's amazing.
Yeah. So as Anna was saying, he presses a button and he's like, a panel opens up in the table and here come all of the toys that you should be buying for this movie.
Cheat Commandos.
Buy all our play sets and toys.
They are scale models of this amazing, huge submarine and a whole bunch of land and water vehicles that go with it. It's incredible.
It's like micro machines.
Well, places and toys.
Exactly. You'll see Milo fiddle with some of this stuff that we won't see until like the end of the movie.
Yeah, and if anyone was thinking, oh, this submarine stuff is pure fantasy, reminder, the first submarine warfare happened in the Revolutionary War.
Yep.
There were submarine battles in the American Civil War as well, yes. But the Revolutionary War, I think it was like the Turtle or something, it was a bad idea. There's an entire Lions Led by Donkeys episode about it.
Oh my god. I knew about the Civil War, but not about the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, especially I know that the Civil War ones did not work super well.
Oh no,
they were a very good way of killing a lot of your soldiers in very unpleasant ways.
Yep.
And maybe the enemy if you were lucky. This is the point where they get the team together, and I love when a team comes together. I love a dossier.
Oh, he's got dossiers. I love it when they have dossiers. I've played Mass Effect 2 like 20 times.
I was just about to say the same thing.
So first off, Gaëtan Molière, or they call him Mo, he does geology. He's a horrible little man. We've got Vincenzo Santorini, who does demolitions and was broken out of a Turkish prison as I waggle my eyebrows at the movie of like, excuse me?
He's even, like, their photo of him is even like a prison mugshot.
And you can like see scraps of, they haven't lorem ipsum this. Someone has poorly typed dossiers on everything. And just under Vinny's picture, we can see the words, olive oil smuggling in his spare time.
He's Italian, it makes sense.
So then we get Audrey Ramirez, kid mechanic, a teenager, don't let her age fool you.
And this is the same crew that brought the journal back. This is just a taste. We see everybody in there.
Yeah, he doesn't say all of their names, but we'll meet them all later.
Did you guys notice that in the Iceland crew, you actually see Audrey's dad and not her?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got a photo.
She's like 14 or something, right?
Yeah, because
she's a baby.
That she would have been a kid when they got the journal, but she's joined their crew because the dad had to retire.
Yeah, you see Thaddeus in the photo and part of the Iceland team, and like Audrey's dad is just this tiny little man.
In these baggy overalls, he looks like Mario, but Mexican?
Milo is starting to realize that, oh wait, this is happening, and he's like, okay, I'll have to quit my job. And Whitmore's like, done. You resign this afternoon. I did? Yep. I don't like to leave loose ends. What about my apartment? I have to give notice. Taken care of. My clothes? Packed. My books? In storage. My cat? And then his cat steps over the back of the chair and lands on him.
Meow!
It's great.
It's really, really good timing. I love a good snappy back and forth.
And it ends with, my gosh.
Yeah. My apartment, my clothes, my books, my cat, my gosh.
So then Whitmore looks at him and says the thing from the trailer. He says, Atlantis is waiting. What do you say?
And Milo is so excited, he can't keep it in. Smash cut to him barfing over the side of a ship.
Because he can't keep it in.
He's seasick, he's gonna barf.
My name is Milo Thatch, and things were not always thus.
We hear, there's a PA system where we hear Mrs. Packard on this ship, who is the communications officer.
Oh, I love Mrs. Packard. Mrs. Packard tied with Vinny as my favorite character on these rewatches. She's so good.
She's great. She's going to be making these dry quips this whole movie, and our first taste of it is to the person who has taken the L off of the pool sign. Ha ha. Very funny.
The motor pool sign.
Yeah.
It says poo now.
It says motor poo.
You're horribly original. Please bring it back.
They're currently on a big steel sailing ship that is going to deploy the submarine and all the stuff that's on it.
We also see that Helga is here. She's now in her work clothes, where she is even hotter than when she was in a slinky dress.
Oh, she's got a turtleneck and a big coat.
Yeah.
And she has to argue with a cartoon prospector because Jim Varney is here to be Cookie. And this is their cook. He has a literal chuck wagon behind him. And he's very mad because he's been given his first spice rack.
He hates it. He hates everything.
They literally do a setup for a gag about the 4 basic food groups that's very shoehorned in.
He hates seasoning. He also hates lettuce.
Also, the 4 food groups were not created until 1956. That's okay. It's a good joke.
Yeah, and this is, again, his last role. He never actually lived to see this completed film. I believe he saw some screenings of it, and the film is dedicated in his memory. But he passed away from, I believe it was lung cancer?
Yeah, I've heard Jim Varney was a very nice man, and that makes me happy.
Oh, by all accounts, Jim Varney was just a great guy. I mean, for those of you who are millennial age, if the name doesn't immediately ring a bell, we're talking about the Ernest.
It's Ernest.
Yeah, it's Ernest. Ernest
P. Worrell.
Ernest goes to camp.
Know what I mean, Vern?
He's scared stupid.
Ernest goes to jail. He gets electric powers.
Yeah. He's got a friend named Vern. He used to do commercials.
So he says the 4 food groups are beans, bacon, whiskey, and lard, and that should be like an encapsulation of this character.
Oh, yeah. He's just...
Basically.
He's the old-timey prospector. You know him. You love him. He was the bad guy in Toy Story 2.
We will later see him trying to drive a truck with horse reins.
Oh, he's got a mule.
Yeah.
He's a prospector. Of course he's got a mule.
Yeah, so we also see several hundred soldiers and sailors all rushing around. Don't get attached to these guys.
No, don't.
But we do meet some unique character models like Vinny, who is carting a ton of explosives, who tells Milo that the pony rides are back there.
Yeah, this begins a subplot of them hazing the living crap out of Milo until they decide he's their friend.
Basically.
He literally drops dynamite behind him as he's carrying stuff, and Milo gets scared, and Vinny says, what do you got? And he's, and this has got to be improv, because it's, gunpowder, nitroglycerin, notepads, fuses, wicks, glue, and the paper clips.
Big ones.
Yeah, office supplies.
We also meet Commander Rourke, who's our military guy in charge of this whole operation. Milo's like, we're going to be learning so much on this trip. And Rourke is like, yes, this will be enriching for all of us. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
Not at all suspicious.
And Rourke is that character model where he is the big, brawny, kind of colonel-looking guy that James Garner could play in his sleep.
Yeah.
He's very avuncular. He's very nice. He's, I like a good Western me.
Very clean cut.
Kind of Tommy Lee Jones, R. Lee Emery kind of guy.
And I'm like, that is that actor going on a run and no one wanting to cut him off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they all climb aboard the submarine. Whitmore is going to see them off with a thumbs up and his fingers crossed behind his back because, oh no.
This submarine, by the way, is gorgeous.
Oh my
It's a
God.
combination of a 3D model with 2D characters on a 3D set. There's a really complicated bit in the Wikipedia, which is, I'm sure, copied from a DVD special feature, that explains just how difficult this shot of getting your 2D characters onto the 3D model and then getting that model to sync and following it with the camera around.
Oh, no question.
Yeah, no, like the amount of work they did to make the 2D characters blend in with the 3D environment around them is like, it cannot be overstated how difficult that was. And honestly, the 3D still looks really good in this film. It is not the kind of thing where, like...
It holds up.
Yeah, it doesn't feel distractingly weird.
It's the kind of thing where the limitations of the form at the time actually lend itself to the style of the movie. There's a bit of that a little bit later where I'm really going to highlight that. But yeah, it works. It looks futuristic and weird and like it shouldn't exist because it shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's so good. And the ship itself is like, it must be a couple of 100 meters long.
It's enormous.
It's shaped kind of like a fish, but with the flat tail of a mammal. And at the front, instead of a head, it's got this big, bulbous yellow globe that is like an observation dome. And there are a few of those domes around the ship.
Yeah, and it's a multi-level bridge where you've got the engineers below and you've got the officers up top. And they're all contained within this glass bubble.
Also, like... every time they do commands on this, it's great because Helga is the lieutenant. It's her job to basically give all of the commands on the ship. So you actually hear her barking out orders, and the writing they did for this just sounds really great. She sounds very much like she knows exactly what she's doing and exactly what she's saying. It's very authoritative. I'm also bisexual.
Just a little bit.
Speaking of knowing what you're saying, Mrs. Packard comes over the PA system and declares that tonight's supper will be baked beans, musical program to follow. And then she pauses. She's like, who wrote this?
Do you get it?
Who wrote this?
Do you get it? Because you fart. Beans make you fart. Have you guys seen Blazing Saddles?
You guys?
Did you get it?
Can I tell you something? I didn't get it till just now.
Oh my gosh.
No!
Beautiful.
No! We had a live one.
It slipped past me.
I love it. Honestly, that's the best kind of writing. Where it's just like, you know what? Just keep going. There will be another one in a few minutes.
So we got to meet the rest of our supporting cast. Turns out that Milo's roommate is Mole. Mole is a perfectly spherical, weird little French guy. He loves dirt.
He's a tiny dirt pervert.
Like, he likes to bury himself in things. He chuckles a lot to himself. He's a weird little freak. Oh.
And he wears these goggles with, like, telescoping glasses.
He gives you the same vibes as the guy that really likes monster parts and little glowing owl bunny rabbit parts in the Zelda games in Breath of the Wild. And he's a nasty little freak.
He's Igor pilled.
Yeah.
You know, he's Peter Lorre maxing. You know, he's yeah, it's a lot.
It's giving what hump.
But Who interrupts the scene but Dr. Sweet?
I got to see the sweet doctor. Dr. Sweet. I got to see the sweet doctor. Dr. Sweet.
Oh my god, like, Mole tries to push him out for disturbing his international dirt collection. Tells him to get out.
England must never merge with France.
And he runs into the broad expanse of bare chest.
So this is Dr. Sweet, and Dr. Sweet is the first human black character in Disney history.
Wait.
What? Really?
Yep.
As long as we don't talk about Fantasia.
We don't talk about Fantasia.
We don't talk about Fantasia.
Like, this ain't no Crows and Dumbo shit. This is a person. This is a black person with a name and a character.
And he is actually, we'll find out later, not only black, he is black and Native American.
This is true. This is true.
And he is voiced by Jackie Childs, so he speaks very quickly, and he's funny, and he talks about how he's got a new bone saw, and it's going to cut through a femur in 28 seconds, all to make Milo very nervous. He hands him 2 giant vials, and he says, fill these, and Milo has to spit something out and go, with what?
Yeah, because, these things could probably fill a half gallon each.
But of course, Milo gets called to the bridge before Sweet can intimidate him too much.
Oh, I love Sweet, though. He's definitely one of my favorite characters in this movie. He's so charming. He's handsome. He's just really fun.
There are actually, TikTok videos of Gen Z people being introduced to Dr. Sweet and nearly getting knocked off their chairs.
Oh, little Sweet fan cams?
Oh, yeah.
Bless their hearts.
This is a weird little... who is that?
Hello! He's so tall.
Exactly.
He's so tall. I continue to be bisexual, thank you.
Hell yeah. So we go back to the bridge, and there is a running thing throughout that I'm going to highlight where Mrs. Packard is coaching her friend Margie through a breakup, and it's adorable. I love it.
It's just gossiping. And she's just clearly on the phone. She's in a gigantic submarine approaching the bottom of the ocean, and she's just talking to her friend Margie.
She's like, Margie, the meatloaf was dry. I'm very sorry to be the one to tell you this.
She literally wears a World War I British helmet with headphones and it's a headset, but it uses one of the old voice horns from old phones.
Yes, it's such a good look. And she's just constantly at a little switchboard.
Yeah, always smoking.
It's a combination of she's the sonar guy from the sub movie, but she's also the loudspeaker guy from the military movie, but she's also just having a conversation and also reading a magazine that just says crime on the front.
This is a woman who has been through some shit. She's old and she's had a full life, and this is her retirement.
She has no time for your shit.
So they're away, and then everyone turns to Milo, and Milo has to tell them why they're all here, and he's very bad at this.
Oh, you thought his little presentation at the beginning was a bit embarrassing? This one's mortifying.
Oh my god.
It's awful. It's actually really hard to watch.
He has to present slides, and of course, whenever you have a carousel slide projector, you have to have the first one be embarrassing.
Obviously.
Indeed.
He gives this little presentation about something called the Leviathan. You know, he says, from the book of Job, the Alexander's horrible, no good, very bad day book of the Bible.
How dare you question my forethought, says the creator of the hippopotamus.
And so he talks about the Leviathan, some kind of big thing. It might look like a big lobster, but it's probably a metaphor. It's nothing to worry about.
Don't worry about it.
We're just bringing it up for flavor. It's fine.
Yeah, Audrey is wanting to bully Milo real bad.
Audrey is also fantastic.
This is true.
She's so little. She's so cute.
She has to roll up her overalls.
The other thing that we established from that is that the way to Atlantis itself is not actually underground, but there's a big air pocket and an underwater tunnel leading to that air pocket where you can find the beginning of the way to Atlantis.
Yeah, at the bottom of the ocean.
It's repeatedly referred to as the grease trap to a sink.
Yes.
Yeah. And that introductory area is what the Leviathan is guarding, basically.
And they come to the ocean floor where they're in a sailing ship graveyard. Milo says that there are ships from every era around here, and we keep seeing something move in the foreground, in the background, some giant crab thing.
This is so good.
Oh.
It's so cool.
Like, I put this back multiple times because we know the ship is huge, right?
Yeah.
It's like the length of 2 football fields. It's enormous. And we see the ship small in the foreground, and we see these giant pillars of rock and crevasses. And then behind that, something the size of the entire screen flits behind them. And we see it go under the ship. And it's so good. The sense of scale in this scene blew me away.
Yeah, it is bananas.
They have a really good handle on the sense of scale. It's so good.
Like, it makes you feel like the ship is tiny. One of its claws, like one of its, not even its like gigantic lobster claws, but one of its just regular claws is the same size as the ship. It is impossibly big.
Yeah, and dear listener, it looks like something between a lobster and a sea scorpion, basically. If you look up pictures of prehistoric sea scorpions and mix in a bit of lobster,
yeah,
something like that.
This is some Devonian period shit. Yeah, this is the kind of thing that would be eating trilobites.
And Mrs. Packard picks up some weird noises on the hydrophone. Don't worry about it. And it's getting louder. And it sounds like metal grinding together.
And Helga tries to say, oh, it's probably nothing. And Mrs. Packard is like, don't tell me how to do my job. Go away.
I love her.
And then Helga gets to say the horrible, portentous line, it's probably nothing. It's gone now. And then they get hit with a Star Trek-style banger.
Yeah! The Leviathan is attacking. It is unreasonably large.
It swats them like a fly.
And they're scrambling the fighters.
Because, yeah, this sub is a battle star.
Yeah, this whole scene is played out like an aerial battle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So everyone rushes to the sub pods, and they split off, and then turn at a distance and come back off like they're missiles in Macross.
Even the ship has these huge torpedo launchers on it, which are shaped like blimp AA cannons. Flat cannons on blimps.
Yeah, they're anti-aircraft guns, but they shoot air quote torpedoes that are like little guided missile rockets. It's so cool. Your playset just turned on.
We see Vinny and Mole inside one of the fighters. We also cut to Audrey down in the engines. It's this cool sequence of seeing these clearly competent people good at their jobs, and they're used to working together. Like, these are professionals, and it's cool to see them in their element, even if we don't know them very well yet.
Professionals under stress is just such a great genre.
Yeah, this is that shit from Aliens where he says, is this a bug hunt?
Yes!
It's like, no, aliens aren't scary to us. This is Tuesday.
Yeah! It rules.
Love that. Love that.
Rourke even tells him to break out the melted butter and the bibs because we're taking this lobster down.
But that is not to be, unfortunately.
No.
Yeah.
Because this lobster is kicking their ass.
So the lobster's got them in its grasp and they bombard it to make it let go. And it's like, oh, I've let go. Wow, these guys are actually annoying me. I'm going to shoot them with my laser cannon.
I gotta talk about the effect on this laser cannon because...
Go, go, go.
It's so good.
I went frame by frame through this thing. Like, I was watching it again for the first time since 2002, and I went back because it is so good. So, the little tendril, the little pedipalp things around the mouth line up together, and they come to a point, and you see a light build on that point as lightning arcs off of all the surfaces, and it becomes a beam. Now, the edges of this beam have JPEG artifact.
Oh my god.
Yes!
Which is a remnant of the effects of the time, but they've left it in because it looks like it's ripping a hole in reality. This beam should not exist. And then as it fires, it punches straight through the ship, and we see this from inside. As it punches through, it doesn't set fire, it's like a cold laser. We see sailors running away from the hole, and intermittently it is flickering, and you can see their skeletons in blue light for only a frame at a time.
Holy shit.
And then as the explosion hits, it cuts to almost like a Jupiter red gas giant behind it, and then blasts to yellow, and then it's gone, and there's only a giant hole in the ship. It's so fucking cool.
Yes! Oh.
Poor Audrey has to, and I'm sorry if you haven't seen Crimson Tide, this is not going to make any sense. She has to Steve Zahn a guy by shutting a bulkhead before he can get to it so they don't lose the ship. And she doesn't even blink.
This is a 15-year-old girl.
It's the second time someone gets cut off and left to die.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's hard as nails, like to the point where the heat in the ship that's building from the boilers makes all of the rivets in the room fire off like machine guns.
Yes!
And she has to escape it. It's cool.
It's...
Oh my god.
It fucking rules.
She's holding up a frying pan to protect her face.
Like, she radios up to the bridge, and she's like, hit pretty hard, we're not gonna make it. We've got 15 minutes, and then there's another, like, sound behind her, and she's like, make it 5.
Meanwhile, Mrs. Packard is back on the phone to Margie, and she says, oh, he took his suitcase, Marge, honey, he's not coming back. She's so good.
And she's like, I've gotta go, I'll call you, I'll catch you later.
No, honey, I'll call you. It's fine. I'm sure this will be fine in a minute, and I'll be able to call you back.
Because they have to abandon ship, this cool-ass submarine that they spent so much goddamn time hyping up, especially in all the trailers, has a life of like 5 minutes.
It just goes,
Yeah, remember this cool thing that's going to make you feel powerful? This movie just swatted that like a fly.
You'd think this was going to be your home base. And this isn't even something that feels like a cool subversion of expectations. It's just like, because this movie is paced so quickly in the first half of it, it's like, here's our cool characters. All right, now they're going to die. All right, here's our cool spaceship. And now it's gone.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, and so these mini-subs that they get onto escape, but barely, but not before. So Milo at one point is across the glass from the huge eye of this thing.
Yeah.
And he sees the aperture of a camera iris in for a second. He goes, it's a machine. It's not a living thing. It's a big robot.
That rules.
It's so cool. Holy shit.
They get on the escape vehicles. All of the fighters just follow them.
Most of the fighters, a lot of them get swatted out of the air and smashed into nothing by the Leviathan.
Yeah.
So many people die.
They've seen that crevice that they need to get to, and they escape down through it, but even that little tunnel is not very friendly to a lot of ships.
Yeah, at least 3 visibly bang off the edges and explode. We're left with 2 subs at the end of all of this. There's one bigger one and one of the little pods.
I counted them. There are 4 big subs when they start the escape, and 3 of the mini pods have gotten through. 2 of the mini pods get blown up. 3 of the big evac subs get blown up. There's just a handful of people left.
Yeah, they come up through the grease trap. They find this underwater passage that is the start of the highway to Atlantis that Milo talked about earlier in his little presentation. And there are 2 ships remaining. It is the main escape ship that is also a carrier, and it is the little pod that Vinny and Mole were in. And this movie is less than 30 minutes in, and it has a body count of, judging about 180 people.
There's our main cast and maybe anywhere from 10 to 15 kind of random soldiers behind them.
Yeah, they even hold a symbolic funeral, and Rourke gives a speech that says 7 hours ago, there were 200 people on this crew. And don't worry, all of the 15 to 20 people that are not named characters are wearing gas masks, and they don't have faces, so that's probably not something you need to worry about.
Don't worry about it.
It's fine.
Exactly. It's fine.
It's fine.
So they rig into a convoy with Mole's drill tank, because... my God, did Toys and Media convince me that I would have more drill tanks in my life in 2025?
Stop, dropping, and roll and drill tanks. They expect you to have so many more of those.
Do you guys remember the Rock Raiders Lego?
Yes.
Yep.
Join the Rock Raiders in search of rare braconium. Hard rock can't stop your heavy metal drills, but the dreaded rock monster can. The new Lego Rock Raiders collection. Each set sold separately, batteries not included.
Oh, I had a Rock Raiders Lego set.
I also remember the Inhumanoids.
Inhumanoids.
The evil that lies within.
I remember that one of the Technobots was a drill tank.
Yep.
They're everywhere.
Yep.
And Helga is once again in command mode. She is reorganizing them into a convoy. She makes a specific point of putting Vinny at least 50 feet behind the truck with all the oil and petrol on it because, oh my God, Vinny, your truck is full of explosives.
You see, that shows that she actually knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a competent woman.
She's so competent.
And Milo, like all disaster buys, can't drive.
Hey!
It's true.
Hey! I can drive just fine, thank you.
Yeah, but you're not a disaster buy. You're a fantastic buy.
Who are you calling? Who are you calling unable to drive?
You're a competent adult, Henny.
/ disaster, thank you.
But honestly, Milo can't drive because it's 1914 and the closest thing to a car that he's had in his life is a bumper car at Coney Island.
And he's like, but it's the same basic principle. Milo, this is a stick shift. It's 1914. They're all Model Ts, bud.
This is a 2-ton truck you are attempting to drive, and they eventually just, like, they hitch him to the back of the drill tank and they tow him like he's a kid on a wagon. He's even pretending to turn the wheel as if he's in control and making grumpy faces.
So we now get to a travel montage where we see all these really interesting cave sequences. Apparently they did a lot of study at Carlsbad Caverns for this.
It's so cool.
A highlight is when they come up to a skull cave on the map, and they look up, and it's a skull cave, and there's 2 eye holes with a tunnel going into each. And Milo holds the book up one way and gives a big thumbs up, and when they try to go in, and there's a giant centipede there, and then Milo turns the book the other way and kind of pulls at his collar and goes, sorry, that way.
It's a good gag.
It's basically the main characters driving stuff around, lowering vehicles down on cranes, and they're all guarded by these men with guns and gas masks.
And they are occasionally stalked by strange figures in the foreground or the background, much like the Leviathan stalked the submarine earlier.
Oh, wait, I know this one. They're the Vendel. They have a mother back in the cave. They think they're bears, Annie.
I'm sorry, bud. You're losing me on this one.
Yeah.
Aww.
I don't get it.
No, it's from the 13th Warrior. It's the baddies from the 13th Warrior. They look the same.
Yes. Thank you.
Vinny and Mole continue to prank Milo. Like, he takes a big swig out of a canteen, and Vinny's like, no, that's nitroglycerin. Don't move. Don't shake. And then Mole, like, scares him and goes, boo, from behind, and they walk away laughing. The hazing continues until morale improves. Oh.
They come across this gigantic pillar. It's a beautiful carved pillar. It's not just like a pillar feature of like a cave, well, with a column, right? Where you've got the stalactite and the stalagmite meeting. This is something that was carved, and Milo's like, oh my god, it's amazing. It must have taken hundreds or thousands of years to carve this thing. And then Vinny blows it up. It falls over, and he's like, hey, I made a bridge. It took me like 10 seconds, 11 tops.
It's fine, you guys.
And when the explosion goes off, Vinny looks alive for the first time in the movie.
This man loves explosions so much.
He just gets a little smile and his eyes go real big and he gets real fixated for like a half second. He's like, that was great.
He has a very severe case of BGS.
There's also ice caves in here.
Just random snow ice caves. They're in Hoth for a little minute.
Yeah, just for a scout. And then we come to a roadblock that's this gigantic wall or something that has fallen down over this highway that they're on.
And Mole's like, oh my god, finally, I get to dig.
The little dirt pervert.
Oh my god, the little dirt pervert.
Mole is diamond hard at this point.
Yet. Helga tells him he can dig, and he gets into his drill tank and he starts to go towards the wall and starts to drill into it, and it's really bright and sparks, and then something inside the tank blows up and smoke comes out everywhere and it crashes.
And there's a lot of untranslated French swearing from the inside of that drill tank.
He's so angry that he face desks atop the steering wheel to blow the horn.
Audrey takes a look at the engine. She's like, I don't get it. I just did maintenance on it this morning. I'm gonna go have to get some parts. She points at Milo like, don't you dare touch that thing. Do not move.
No toques nada. But of course, Milo sees that the boiler looks just like the one he had back home in the museum.
And he's the boiler whisperer.
So he twists some knobs and he whacks it with a hammer and it comes to life again. Not a hammer, a wrench.
And Audrey comes back and she's like, what the hell did you do? And I was like, well, it just turns out it's the exact same model, this boiler back in the, you see, and the brand here, they're always a little bit titchy, and he just like rattles off some boiler chat.
Doing the whole sniffling and pulling his pants up thing.
And then she does the correct thing. She tells him to shut up, and then she makes like she's going to punch him, and then she gets him 2 for flinching. Bully this man.
He's such a loser.
But hey, drill works.
It does.
They now come to a big cave that is dominated by essentially a large platform and then a bridge that goes across to another platform. And in the middle of that room is a gigantic stalactite that glows like a nightlight, like greenish yellow. And they're like, all right, well, Milo says this is it. It's got to be beyond there. So let's just camp here for the night and head out tomorrow morning.
And this is the point where, led by Audrey, the team kind of warms to him because he's been sitting off by himself and translating the whole time they've been traveling while they have their campfire and stuff. And any interaction has been this hazing. And finally they relent. They're like, okay, come on, come over and join us. We're going to be nice to you. Except for Mole, who continues to suck.
It's true.
He's a nasty little freak. Milo shares some of what he's been working on because he's just like translating stuff while he eats. It turns out he's been working on a passage in the book about something called the Heart of Atlantis. He's like, it's maybe a power source or something, but it cuts off here like there's a missing page and I don't know what it is. And then he's like, hooray, but hey, you guys get it? Yeah, we're here for the spirit of discovery and teamwork and adventure, and you all just want the money.
The money, yeah.
They all admit, yeah, I'm going to get paid. I'm going to get mine. And I'm going to go back to the world.
Hey, listen, do the hustle. Get your money.
So then, and here's the thing that specifically the animators said would take the place of what would be a song.
Yeah.
We get some honest-to-God character development from these characters.
Right?
This is like the best scene in the movie, hands down.
They get to tell their origins and their motivations directly to Milo.
And it's in a way that doesn't feel forced. It's just like, hey, okay, so finally let's get to know each other. Let's just go around. Here's my deal.
Yeah, also, Milo has built up enough hearts in their Stardew Valley friendship meter that they can each have a little cutscene with him.
Yeah.
And talk about who they are.
Like, Sweet cracks Milo's neck. He talks about how he's half Native American, half black. He's from the Kansas Territory with the Arapaho tribe, which, yes, is one of the indigenous peoples of the Great Plains. They were allies of the Cheyenne in that period of time. He said he was drafted halfway through medical school, fought in the Spanish-American War, which was give or take about 15 years before this movie takes place.
Yeah, his dad was a Buffalo soldier.
Yeah.
They specifically show the uniform. Also, he talks about being a medic with the Rough Riders on San Juan Hill, which was a nasty time.
Yeah.
Go listen to a very good Lions Led by Donkeys episode about it.
Yeah, Sweet's seen some shit.
He's been around the block a few times.
Vinny helps Milo with his tent, and then Audrey asks about Milo's grandfather. He talks about how, like, his grandfather was just this great guy. Like, he found an arrowhead in the river, and his grandfather was so proud.
It's really cute.
And we find out about Audrey.
Yeah, Audrey's great. So her dad wanted two sons, one to run the machine shop, one to be the middleweight boxing champion. And he didn't get sons, but he did get a daughter who could work the machine shop and another daughter who was a boxing champion.
She's 24-0, and she's got a shot at the title next month.
And Audrey's saving up to open another shop with him.
It's really cute.
And Mrs. Packard goes by, and she's got, like, the cartoon kind of face mask and the cucumbers, and Milo's like, oh, did you forget your jammies? And she goes, I sleep in the nude.
And Sweet's like, careful, she also sleepwalks. You'll want this face mask.
And Vinny tries to be cagey, and he's like, I just like to blow things up. And he's like, come on, Vinny, you gotta tell the kid the truth. And he explains that his family owned a flower shop, and he would sell all these different kinds of flowers. And in the middle of, like, prom season, where it's crazy busy, and he's making all these corsages, and it's stressful. And there was a gas leak next door that blew up the laundry that was adjoining them, and blew him through the front window, and he said it was like a sign from God. I found myself in that boom. So he's been chasing that high ever since.
And I love the way he tells the story. He's like, you know, the prom,
and the
corsages.
The one they put on the wrist. They come in. Where is it? When is it? Does it match with my dress? It's a nightmare.
It's such good ad-libbing.
You do that way too well.
This is a man who blows things up for a living, and he is terrified by high school girls.
And finally, Sweet is just like, don't ask about Mole. You don't want to know. Audrey,
don't tell him.
Audrey, you told me, and you shouldn't have, but you did. And don't ask about Mole.
And then we just see Mole twisting sideways into, like, a crevice in the ground, and then a...
Yeah, it's just...
He's a nasty little freak. He's a little dirt pervert.
I shit you not, he sounds like a possum's mating call, like an Australian brushtail possum's mating call.
Oh no!
Let me see if I can find my copy of Microsoft Encarta, and I can put that into the episode.
Oh, it's gotta be the Encarta one.
That's the end of our scene, the best scene in the movie. Then we gotta have an attack, because whenever your explorers stop for the night, they gotta get attacked. That's how serials work.
Yeah, someone failed their perception check.
Yeah, sure. Just give me a perception check real quick. Okay, that's 2. Yeah, you don't hear anything. It seems perfectly normal. Totally fine.
Milo's going out to poop with his trowel and his toilet paper.
And his torch, which I did check, flashlights had been invented by then, so this is okay.
So he was gonna dig in the rock?
And then bury his poop.
With the trowel, he's gonna dig in the rock. That was his plan.
Presumably there was a layer of dirt.
Look, he's not a geologist, Annie. He's a linguist.
Honestly, I just feel like if you're on the edge of a vast, impossible pit, I would have just pooped over in that. I just would have peed in that, maybe pooped, and then just taken the trowel and just tossed it off the edge. That's nature's toilet.
No one wants to die by falling into the crevice by trying to poop off it.
In retrospect, it's probably a good thing that no one did that.
I guarantee you that has happened in so many camping accidents.
And someone shakes their head and goes, died the way he lived.
Shitting off a cliff?
Shitting on things from a great height. So then, he, notices some fireflies that are coming down from the ominous crystal stalactite.
We also catch up with those figures that have been watching the party for a while. We get a view of them. They are 3 figures in these enormous masks, the size from the head to the torso. They're big, with glowing eyes and mouths.
Yeah, they're like tiki masks. They're huge.
One of them finds Milo's photo of him and his grandpa because he keeps it with him all the time. Yeah, and then Milo shines his flashlight around on that big nightlight thing.
Then the horror movie part of this movie starts.
Oh boy.
Because when these fireflies come down and they sort of swarm and it's beautiful, and then they touch something and they blow up. They set all the tents on fire. It's bad.
Yeah, they are fireflies.
They're not just glowflies, they burn stuff they touch.
And here come all of them. Here come all of them. And now the camp is on fire.
Rourke looks at it and immediately cuts his losses. We are not putting this out. Everyone get to the trucks. We're leaving right now.
We gotta get out. We gotta abandon... Well, they should have abandoned, the petrol and explosives, but they didn't. And...
Oh, no, they didn't. And we get to see a guy catch fire in the cockpit of this truck, start to scream, and then the truck explodes. For kids. For kids, this movie.
Unfortunately, their escape convoy was halfway over this big stone bridge at the time, and that explosion was on one end of the bridge. So what do you think happens?
Well, it's a good thing Milo didn't take a dump over the side of that crevice.
I just said that, yes!
Because here he goes.
Oh my god. Because the bridge breaks and collapses, and it doesn't straight up fall down. It sort of goes at an angle, and everyone slides off it down into this deep, dark pit.
It actually reminded me, it preceded the Peter Jackson King Kong thing, when the big log comes off, right? And it falls just in a way where not everyone is dead at the end, but it is still scary. So it falls, and the trucks bounce off it. They never quite get enough momentum that would kill them dead. But also, as Mole points out, when they land in ash. They land in volcanic ash, which kind of cushions their fall a bit.
And it is so far down.
And then we get a super iconic gif that's used for any time something happens in international politics. Rourke lights a match and says, all right, everyone sound off who's not dead.
It's also just a great, it's pure black, and then you just have the match lighting right on Rourke's face, casting these big shadows. It's a great shot.
It really is.
And you can tell people are alive because they're groaning and complaining, including Cookie, who says, dag lightning bugs done bit me upon my sit-upon. Someone's gonna have to suck out the poison. And there is exactly half a beat, and he says, now don't everybody jump up at once.
So they're at the bottom of this pit. Helga fires off a flare gun, and it just keeps going up with no sign of stopping before it detonates. And they figure out, well, there's a ceiling there somewhere, and they could probably go straight up to the surface if that blew. And Mole's like, all right, so we're in a volcano. The magma solidified the bowels of the volcano, blocking the exit. And they're like, wait, you're telling me this is active? And he's like, oh, no, that would take an explosive force of great magnitude.
And they literally turn and look at Vinny, who is holding a cartoon time bomb with an alarm clock.
With a cuckoo alarm clock.
Yeah, which is like falling to bits, and he's holding it together. He's like, I'll do this somewhere else.
Yeah, like, this is just his fidget. This is just what he does when he needs something to do with his hands. He just messes with cartoon time bombs, with clocks and dynamite.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he never has a cigarette, but he is always perpetually, like, you could imagine him having a cigarette lit stuck behind his ear at any point.
Yes.
Well, he does have a match in his mouth all the time, like a cigarette.
Yeah, only Mrs. Packard smokes in this movie.
This is the point when they notice that Milo is missing.
Yeah, Milo landed somewhere else.
Near the dump. Near the poop.
We are mature adults.
And he is being investigated by the big mask people.
They're muttering to each other in what we'll later find out is Atlantean, and the one in the center lifts up their mask to reveal Kida, this young woman with dark skin and white hair who stares at Milo in something approaching awe. She notices that he's got a scratch on his chest, and he wakes up, looks at her, and then she takes this crystal around her neck, the same one that all of the others seem to have, presses it to his injured chest and presses her hand down, and that injury closes up.
He doesn't say anything during that time. He's just kind of awestruck.
Girl pretty.
At first he's too afraid, and then he's too amazed.
Girl pretty.
By this pretty girl.
She smiles at him, lowers the mask, and then they hear the clunk of machinery, and all three of the masked figures scatter. And Milo gives chase.
When they book it, they do a thing where they're using their spears to kind of pole vault along from pinnacle to pinnacle of rock.
Yeah.
Again, reminiscent ahead of time of the Peter Jackson King Kong movie, because that's how the Skull Islanders get across the pinnacles. Like, I was looking at it, and I'm like, where have I seen this before? Peter Jackson was paying attention.
Interesting. So Milo chases them out into an open space, the first open space we've seen since they went underwater.
It's covered in green.
Yeah, it's green, and there's clouds below where he's standing, and it's this massive area. And he stops and stares in awe as behind him the drill tank smashes through the back wall.
There are waterfalls in the distance.
There's something flying?
And they come up to the edge of the cliff and stare at what he is staring at. Because this is the edge of Atlantis.
This is the edge of the city that we saw in the prologue. It's overgrown now and kind of ruined, but it's the same place.
Yeah, and Milo mentions earlier, like, he expected that if he found it, he would find, like, maybe some ruins, maybe some scraps of pottery. This is not that.
This is an alive city.
And speaking of alive...
And speaking of living, yeah.
Behind them, a bunch of these people with the huge masts drop down behind them and point spears at them. Yeah, Rook restrains himself from pulling his gun, and instead one of them starts yelling at him, and Milo steps forward and tries to translate.
Wait, I know this one. I know what you have to do. Ooh, I know. You gotta paint with all the colors of the wind.
Oh, no!
No, what it turns out is that Milo, despite only ever having read this without ever any speaker, has ascertained how to haltingly speak Atlantean. And he reads some stuff from the book. The lead figure kind of speaks back to him in the same language. And they go back and forth a little bit, and it's halting, and he starts to get more confident. And then out of nowhere, he speaks French, and she responds with, "Mais oui, monsieur." And this is...
In the little bit of the back and forth, there's a bit at some point where they start to actually get into Latin, like I think they say something about the Romans in there.
Yeah, lingua Romae.
Like the language of Roma.
Yeah, it's...
Also, got to point out, halfway through this point, she takes off her mask when she's bickering back and forth with him in Atlantean, so we can now see it's pretty girl.
The explanation they give for this is that Atlantean is a root language, and so it has a lot in common with modern languages, and they'll even be able to understand English. And as someone who spoke a language when I was a child, French, with my family, and then learned it every year in school from kindergarten to grade 12, and then didn't speak that language for 20 years, you need to refresh an active vocabulary to be able to speak a language. Like she says, monsieur. Monsieur is from the Middle French root words that mean my lord. Why? She wouldn't know that. She's been here for thousands of years. She doesn't know the feudal system of Middle French. Jesus Christ.
Lucas, I was prepared to rant about this, so I'm really grateful to you for saving me that trouble.
It's true. It's a little like when they start speaking English, you'd think that maybe they would be able to speak like Old English, right? Like Beowulf era.
Yeah.
Like not even like we wouldn't even get into Chaucerian Middle English.
Nobody's saying what around here. So Milo fully geeks out, and they've been let into the city, and he's in the car, and you see it's Rourke driving, Helga in the middle, and Milo on the side, and he is so animated and so excited, and they are so bored.
He's having a fantastic time.
By the way, there's a moment where Kita speaks French, and the dirt pervert is like, my language. He whispers something unspeakable into Kita's ear, and she punches his lights out.
It's great.
He even starts with a voulez-vous, says, would you like to? And they said something, and she hits him so hard that gears come off his headset.
And Audrey's just like,
good.
I like her.
Yeah, Sweet literally applauds.
So in the car, though, Rourke and Helga, as Milo is going on and on and on, Helga has a quiet word to Rourke, and she's like, there were not meant to be people here. This changes things. And Rourke goes, no, it doesn't.
This changes nothing.
More on that later.
Yeah, don't worry about it. So we are brought to a massive throne room with this lily pond in front of it with all these stepping stones where we see the king of Atlantis that we saw at the beginning of the movie. Older, frailer, and also blind. And still Leonard Nimoy, though.
Because he looked at the bright flash.
Kita and her father argue in Atlantean because he's like, no outsiders may see the city and live.
Yeah, this was my question. It's like, who the what, did some of the Vikings go through the underwater tunnel and get here? Who? Who's seen the city and live? Who are outsiders?
Yeah, he says 1,000 years ago you would have killed these people on sight. And now I wonder, who? Was this the person who wrote the Shepherd's Journal? Because they saw the city and lived, or at least got their account out.
They didn't even have a steampunk submarine.
Yeah, what happened?
So Rourke steps into the middle of this argument, and he's like, thank you for making us feel welcome in this city. And the king switches to English like, I didn't fucking welcome you, bro.
I don't recall saying good luck.
Don't recall saying good luck.
And Rourke does the whole, we are men of science. We are here to explore and learn things. And he's like,
I see that you have guns.
Oh, it's just to remove obstacles. Are you going to be an obstacle?
And he even has a dramatic pause before he says the word obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
And the king's ominously like, well, some obstacles can't be removed by a mere show of force. You need to pack your stuff and get out.
Rourke bargains to allow them to stay the night, and they will leave in the morning. And Milo and Kita exchange glances in the throne room as all of the outsiders leave, and leaving Kita and her father to argue again.
She's saying that their way of life is dying, and he says, no, our way of life is preserved. And that's a really interesting dialogue that this movie does not have time for.
Right?
Not at all, because Kita says that their people are scavenging for food and the lamps are going out, and the people are content maybe, but they don't know any better because we used to be a great civilization, and now the people don't know how far we have fallen, and god damn it.
Okay, listen, she says 1,000 years ago, our people didn't have to scavenge for food on the edge of a crumbling city, but we'll later learn about the lifespan of these people that it's a little bit abnormal.
Oh, but let's get into that when we actually get there.
I'm setting us up for when we get there. We got to understand that 1,000 years ago, things were great. Things were grand.
Yeah. Okay, so, hi, audience. Hello.
Hi.
It's been a while, but this is the point where the movie stops.
Yeah.
The movie is going to grind to a halt now that we are here in the city of Atlantis. We're like halfway through, less than that, I think. And this is the part where the movie is just going to gently stop all of its character building with our ensemble, our really interesting ensemble that we've now gotten to know and we're finding affection for. They're all going to go into the background for a while because we're doing a different movie now. And that movie is Stargate.
That movie is a white savior narrative.
Hi.
You can call it Dances with Lobsters. You can call it The Last Stingray Mirai. Or you can call it Crabatar.
We're just sort of jumping tracks entirely to a separate movie.
Lucas, please. Lucas dropped some of these puns earlier, but I missed them. I didn't know
Crabatar was the one I was like, I have to write this down right now.
actually dying.
This is about to be a movie about how Milo is going to save these indigenous people because he's better at it than they are.
Oh my god.
But yeah, Milo gets basically voluntold by the others to go and get information out of Kira. Hey, she's kind of sweet on you. We need someone who speaks the language.
If only some adorable young linguist would go talk to Kira, but where will we find one in this economy at this time of day?
Oh my god, in this kitchen.
And there's this bit where Milo sees Kira leaving the throne room and he's like, all right, here we go. Look, I have some questions for you and I'm not leaving the city until they're answered. Great, I can do that. And then he turns around. Kira, who has clearly heard him say that, says, look, I have some questions for you and you are not leaving the city until they're answered.
It's a good bit.
She stealth jumps him, holds him in a hammerlock with an arm around his neck and hisses these words into his ear, and it's not hot.
And the thing is that the look on her face definitely says that she is doing this to flirt with him.
Yeah.
She has this mischievous look on her face that she gets for this kind of thing. It's great.
And Milo has gone very still.
And now for the second movie that is Atlantis, The Lost Empire. Yes, so Milo and Kira end up just being very excited about each other. They start trading questions about the surface versus Atlantis. Kira says that they were sent a great cataclysm. There was darkness and a storm. She remembers these bright lights floating above the city that called her mother to it. And Milo's like, that's weird. What do you mean you saw it?
Yeah, what do you mean you remember it? If you remember it, you've got to be 85, 88, 100 years old? And she's like, yeah.
Yeah, what, like it's hard?
Yeah, this tweaked with me. This is why they needed the Plato quote at the beginning, because Plato is code for ancient times. That's a very easy way to be like, no, this didn't happen this millennium. This happened thousands of years ago. And yeah, so they're super old. But specifically...
Okay, here's the kicker.
They can't read.
Milo shows her the shepherd's journal, and Kira takes it. She brushes her hands over the page longingly, and she's like, wait, you can read this? Like, yeah, just like you. She's like, no, you can read this thing right here. He's like, yeah, I know, I can read Atlantean like you can. And she's like, I can't. Nobody can, not since the Great Flood.
So since the time of Noah, nobody has been able to read.
Nobody can read. They just sat around and forgot.
For 8,800 years, nobody thought, I'm going to look at these characters and teach myself how to read.
Nobody said, God, I'm bored living in this town that I can't leave. If only there was something to do.
And it's not even like, because oftentimes languages can die out due to, some, cataclysm or something wiping out a large portion of the population, or getting rid of elder folks. And it's just like
colonists coming in and wiping out populations.
Stomping it out. Stolen generations, residential schools, all kinds of stuff can happen.
Who knows who does that, though?
Yeah.
But the king is right there.
The king's right there.
He was there. Dude is still alive.
Kira looks to be like a young adult, so we assume that anyone who looks older than her was also there.
Yeah, there are little children, but you assume that they're, 3,000 years old?
So... here's our central problem. We're talking about, imagine if Tolkien's elves just forgot how to read. They're just like, you know what, I'm just not going to diminish and go into the West. I'm just going to hang out here and not do anything for fun.
I'm just going to sit around doing hot girl shit.
And it's like, yes, there are oral traditions, but you don't just suddenly become an oral tradition language overnight.
And specifically, it's not because they have writing all around them.
There's writing all around them. It's carved in all of the walls.
Okay, you guys, there are two problems here with both arguments I've heard about why the language wasn't remembered. The first argument was magic. When magic happened and the tidal wave came, the tsunami, somehow the gods took away their capacity for language.
Which, you've got a Tower of Babel thing, so that could be a thing.
Except, they still speak the language just fine. Why would that specifically target their ability to comprehend language? The other thing is the king supposedly destroyed all records of the heart of Atlantis. That's great and all, so maybe he abolished the writing, but still, that's enough time that people would be like, this is really inconvenient not having a written language. We're at least going to make up a new one. Nothing holds water.
Yeah, when we have an entire society that is already created and built with the idea that everybody can read intrinsically within it, we're not talking about, like, using a lot of pictograms on all of our signage or anything. We're talking about it is understood that anyone here will know how to read signs.
Additionally, like, they talk about them being like a scavenger culture now. So it would be one thing if they were like, oh, we've been a scavenger culture for 8,000 years, and so we're not able to pass on the information that we had, except for we know that they were living in the city up until 1,000 years ago.
A really nice city with lots of advanced technology. If Milo's to be believed, advanced medicine, science, all sorts of things, and we even see the remnants of that technology.
So this is our major issue, is that Kita is ancient. She was there when the flood went down, and she has watched her own civilization fall into disarray, and they're all still alive. This whole idea just doesn't work. I have a fix for you. I'm going to pitch this to you guys.
Okay, go.
This is something that John came up with when we have been talking about Atlantis. Here's what you do.
Yeah?
Love a John fix. Let's hear it.
Capsule. Escape pod. Kita. They find her. Perhaps outside, in the outside world. Perhaps she's just there when they come up in that beginning of the highway out of the grease trap. There is an escape capsule, a last son of Krypton situation, and here is Kita.
I would say, kindly couple.
Exactly.
Last hope, doomed scientists.
We have a Goku. We've got Goku here.
Y'all know Goku.
She was sent out. She has landed. She has been in stasis for 8,000 years. We have a girl in a box. We love a sci-fi story with a girl in a box.
Damn it, Joss, get out of our story.
Yeah, right? I was just thinking that.
And Kita wants to go back home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh,
right.
And so therefore she doesn't know about the city when they find the ruins. And so while she can give some information, she was a little one when she left. So she doesn't have all the knowledge.
So she remembers the whole thing about what happened to Atlantis, but everybody else in Atlantis has lived and died normal lifespans.
Ah.
Okay, so her dad is long gone.
Her dad is long gone.
When I remember this, she finds her Fortress of Solitude and it's got crystals in it.
Exactly.
And then Marlon Brando sits up and yeah, you know what's up.
It's all about the crystals and your dad. Exactly.
All right, okay, all right. I could see that working.
I like this fix.
And then you introduce Kita earlier in the story and you integrate her into the ideas of, like, getting to know the rest of the crew. Because that's the whole part of that phase that's interesting, is getting to know everybody. That way you don't have to spend so much time in this part of the movie with it just going flat, because we have to bring Kita in and make her important.
And Milo's kind of her go-between, her catalyst?
Yeah, because he knows the language, but he doesn't know the history. And yeah, so...
And you have Kita, it's not really a problem that she doesn't know how to read. The problem is that nobody else in Atlantis knows how to read.
Right, okay.
We have to shove all that to the side.
Yeah. Forget all of that.
Because we have a broken flying car that looks like a fish.
And Kita has tried and tried and tried to fix it. But luckily, the instructions are written on the tin.
And what I want to know, and again, this feels like the simplest of CinemaSins nitpicks, but if she couldn't read any of the instructions, how has she done 75% of the startup process and not the final one?
I think a lot of just process of, like, trying and failing. She's had 8,000 years to not know how to make this car go.
I do love the bit where he's going through like he's an IT professional trying to talk someone through whether or not they've rebooted their computer yet. It's like, okay, have you put in the crystal? Yes, I did that. You turned the quarter surge left? Yes, I did that. With your hand on the pad? No.
Hand on the pad while it was not.
Let those of us who have never called someone from their office over to our desk to fix our computer and then realized we had not done something essential like plugged it in.
No, we were all guilty of that. It's fine.
So they get this car going. It flies around like that bit in Men in Black where it's bouncing all the way around. And then they go exploring. She climbs a big cliff.
Because Milo had been talking about how he would have loved to use that ship to see the city from above. And Kita's like, well, we can just go climbing.
Yeah, we can climb this big tower in the center of the city and...
I want to know, can you show me? I want to know about these strangers like me. Doom.
So climb a big cliff with, like, these monkey pterodactyl things that are flying around.
Yeah, they're like little dragons. They're
really cool.
They're very cute.
Little Lockheeds.
They're adorable.
Also, the sound effect that plays in the background where they're nearby is a kookaburra call.
Oh, nice.
Of course it is. Shout out to the cereals.
Yeah, because it sounds foreign to the American ears of the people who made it. So, of course, it's a great choice.
Kookaburras often get used as just like junglesound.mp3.
Monkey sound, yeah. A funny thing, we talked about Day of the Dolphin earlier. You know the flipper call?
Yeah.
That's a sped up kookaburra sound.
Really?
Yeah, I learned that the other day. It's sick.
No shit. That rules.
As they're climbing, he realizes he doesn't know her name. He's like, what's your name? And she says her name is Kiragakesh. And it's not quite that whole thing's your name, huh? But he does say, do you have a nickname? And of course it's Kira. Watashi wa star. There's a Who's on First bit extended about the fact that the doctor's name is Cookie. And she's like, no. He's like, no. The cook is named Cookie. The doctor's name is Sweet. So he's sweet, which means he's kindly. No, well, he is, but that's also his name. It's a long bit. It goes for a long time.
And like she's taking him around the city. We're seeing like lots of people fishing. We're seeing a lot of children so that we know that there are lots of families here. We even like go through the markets where we see Audrey and Mole, I think, where it's like, hey, look, it's those characters that we're invested in. Hey, wait, where are you going? Oh, come back.
It's Audrey and Cookie, and they're looking at the really cool blue tattoos that everyone has.
Yeah.
And then Cookie has to do a bit about his tattoo of all, quote, 38 United States.
Because this is olden times.
You can make one of them dance by doing a belly roll.
It's olden times.
The end of this bit happens while they're all eating dinner together in a household, and they got these strange eating implements which look like spirals, and there are finger caps with strings between them. It's weird. It's deliberately weird.
It's the Three Seashells bit from Demolition Man, but it's like they're doing it with cow tools.
They are eating with cow tools. You're right.
And they have to eat giant prawns with a million eyes on them.
Lots of weird little crustaceans.
I mean, look, nature loves a crab. They're all going to be crabs eventually.
Nature's favorite shape.
You just leave them in Atlantis long enough, they'll just all be crabs.
And
crabs who can't read.
Who's the tough guy now, Vinny?
Like Milo was explaining, like we didn't expect an actual city. This is amazing. Even see some of the little fireflies, and he's like, yeah, they're actually cute when they're not burning my friends alive. But we don't have time for that.
We also cut pretty quick to some of these soldiers who are conveniently still alive and always wear gas masks take out some guns.
Go on. Go off about the guns, Anna.
Thank you. So they pull out a crate of guns, and these guns are very distinctively short magazine-fed Lee-Enfield Mark III stars. So that's the SMLE Mark III star. Now, this is in great detail, and we even see concept art saying these guns, SMLE Mark III stars. Now, that's notable because to choose that very specific rifle, that is a wartime rifle that was developed by the Brits because the SMLE Mark III original was a very good gun, but it was very heavy, very complex, very expensive to make. So they had to make a cut-down budget version, an economized version, as a primary battle rifle for soldiers. Why did they choose a very specific 1915 weapon for 1914? Why not go with, like, the 1895 MLE, which still has a very distinct, cool-looking design, would have been surplus from the Boer War, and it was replaced in 1907. Why didn't they just go with that? It's such a weird decision.
I mean, maybe it's a bit like the coelacanth thing, where we're showing this thing before it was in circulation or understood, because this is yet again proof of Whitmore having money and power to be able to outfit them with stuff like the submarine.
That's true.
And these rifles that haven't hit the war yet.
That could be it, yeah. Or it could be saying that we're in a slightly alternate history where things are happening at a slightly different pace. Coelacanth was found slightly earlier, Britain entered the war a little earlier, stuff like that.
But I mean, the most important thing, though, is that
it looks cool.
One thing is universal. Henches in gas masks are gonna be baddies.
Yes.
Exactly. You don't have to see their faces, so they don't have souls.
Yeah. And the SMLE has a very cool profile, so it's a very distinct looking gun, very stubby looking. and it makes it stand out from the gun that people would have expected, which would be the Springfield.
Also, thinking of it like from like a purely logistical standpoint, 1, shorter, smaller crates, and 2, from an animation standpoint, it's not taking up your whole frame with this stupidly long gun.
Mm-hmm.
It's true, they are the short version, the carbine.
Yeah.
At some point, you can forgive some slight anachronisms for a rule of cool and efficiency.
Oh yeah, this is like some Gunsmith Cats level. I'm being incredibly specific about the weapons choices in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, I wouldn't have been so specific about this if we didn't literally have concept art that said specifically SMLE Mark III star. Note the distinctive hump.
So, back to
But yeah, so
Milo and Kita.
Right, yeah, the soldiers do a menacing thing, and then we go back to the Can You See the Love Tonight scene.
But Annie, they're gonna go swimming.
Yeah, Kita's like, hey, our culture is dying. Can you help me translate a mural? And he's like, great, I would love to. She's like, it's underwater. And he's like, I hope you swim. And he's like, oh yeah, I swim pretty, girl. That's pretty good.
Only animation can convey the level of awkward Milo is, complete with bathing suit bubble farts when he gets into the water.
He's a perfect dweeb. And she's just like, oh, you're smart, but you're also so stupid. And I like that in a man.
It's so good. He even jumps in excitedly into the water, and then he comes back up. Well, she's just standing there waiting for him to go, yeah, no, actually, you go first because I don't know the way.
Yeah.
She just sits there with a smile on her face, waiting.
You dummy.
He's such a nerd.
You dummy.
He's such a nerd.
And to show that he's a nerd, they have him swim with the same motion that Merlin swims with in The Sword and the Stone, which is that thing where they do the frog kicks and the big breath stroke, and they move 2 inches forward with the big cheeks puffed out.
Which is great, because, I mean, like, this is such a milk call character. Like, all of the characters in this movie, like, that are spindly and have those nice big square hands are, like, milk call characters.
For comparison, Kita swims gracefully like a mermaid.
Of course she does.
So, like, bringing in Merlin here and having that similar kind of big, gawky, awkward character movement is very good.
It's a nice visual comparison.
Okay, we're going to skim over this bit because there's a lot of stuff of them like looking over the giant mural and seeing pictures of like big stone giants and lights and crystals. And he comes up to an air pocket and he yells a bit about it and he goes back down and reads a bunch more. So he's worked out the heart of Atlantis is a big crystal, but where is it? They don't know where it is. It's there in the middle in the picture, but they don't know where it is. But they come back, and remember that thing I said before about how these character designs, depending on the lighting, can look either funny and silly or sharp and evil? Everyone has their evil face on now.
Oopsie-doo, military coup.
Because, hey, Rourke's like, guess what? We've all got our guns out, we've got the stuff we want, and here's the point where we pillage the city.
Hey, great. So you know that missing page that you found in the book that talked about the heart of Atlantis? Hi, I've had it here the whole time. This is what we're looking for. We're gonna take it.
Come and join us. Welcome to the club, pal. You passed your test. You found the thing for us. You're part of the gang, right?
Right? Yeah, no, not right. He has words for Rourke, and Rourke's like, well, what a shame. We're gonna have you and your girlfriend held at gunpoint.
Man, Kita starts to do some cool action girl shit, and then immediately it shuts her down.
Oh, she fucked some soldiers up. Like, yeah, to the point where she's ready to stab one in the face.
And unfortunately, Kita is, from this point forward, going to spend the rest of the movie looking sad with her mouth open.
She gets held by the upper arm one time. It's a very dangerous thing.
They grab her by the wrist, and she just collapses. Just like all women.
Like, it's wild. The moment I started taking estrogen, my upper arm, you grab it, I go limp. Exactly. I don't know what happened. It's just out of the blue. Never saw that coming.
Doctors will warn you about that. It's a common side effect.
It's a common side effect of transitioning. No one ever warns you.
Something that sounds real prescient right now. Rourke, he's called a mercenary by Milo, and he says, mercenary, I prefer adventure capitalist.
Oh.
Oof.
And he's even like, God, I mean, if you gave back every stolen artifact from a museum, you'd be left with an empty building.
Yes.
You're so close, bud.
Interesting.
You're so close.
You're so close.
Interesting. That feels like something we should interrogate a little, huh?
Yeah.
I just want to highlight once again, all of these beloved supporting characters.
Yeah.
Every one of them gets sharper and nastier, and Mole isn't funny anymore. Mole looks crazy.
Yeah.
Vinny is like menacing. Even Audrey looks like she's gonna beat someone with the wrench she's got. The doc is holding his bone saw again. Cookie looks like he could kill a motherfucker.
It's so good.
Yeah, he's got a double-barrel shotgun now.
Also, Mrs. Packard has a tiny Derringer, bless her.
It's so small!
And it's so good. They're such good character designs. They worked so well on both sides as heels or faces.
Yeah.
This is just for you, Anna. I looked it up. Mole has what is essentially a tiny anti-aircraft machine gun.
I saw it. It's got, if you take away the drum magazine, it's just basically, what is it, a Lewis? A Vicker?
One of those, and it's like they chopped it down. They're like, what's the weirdest looking gun we can give this guy?
This nasty little dirt pervert.
Yeah, and then they just stick a Papa Shah drum magazine on it. It's wild.
So Milo starts arguing and he's like, the heart of Atlantis is what you're after, but it's more than a battery like I thought, or some kind of diamond like you thought. It is the life force that keeps the Atlanteans alive. They will all die without it. So the heart of Atlantis is the thing that's been making them immortal, I guess?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
It was something from the mural that he read.
Yeah.
So I presume it's like a giant Shepherd Fairy Hope mural or something. I don't know.
Rourke puts Kita at gunpoint, and he forces Milo to translate that missing page that he's been keeping. Part of what they learn is that the heart of Atlantis lies in the eyes of her king. So let's go to the throne room.
King's blind, you see.
He ain't got no eyes.
So how could it be in his eyes?
Well, try beating up an old man. That should do it.
He tells the king, he's like, yeah, tell me this thing. And the king tells him to go jump and gets punched in the stomach and kicked a bunch of times for his trouble.
And, like, Sweet is great because he immediately is like, oh my god, don't do that, and just, like, bends over the king because Sweet's a doctor.
Elder abuse was not part of the plan.
Rourke points a gun at the king and almost shoots him. And you can see, like, the rest of the crew, you start to see them sort of, like, they all look alarmed at each other. Like, this is clearly an escalation they did not account for.
Yeah, we were just supposed to be posturing, you guys. We didn't actually plan to...
Kill an old man?
Kill an old man, no.
Stealing something is one thing. Threatening someone at gunpoint with their daughter's death is outside the pale. It's weird, and we don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Notably, for this threatening scene, Rourke has slumped down on the king's throne and has put his feet up on his table.
Yeah, he's such a fuck.
Yeah.
And while he's doing that, he's like, oh, it lies in the eyes of her king. And then he takes a look at that waiting pool and those stepping stones.
And he realizes...
They form an A from the language.
It's the Atlantean A, it's the spiral, it's the city, it's the eye, it's the center.
He gets it now. From this angle, he can see from the position where the king's eyes would be. So he grabs Milo, he grabs Kita, and he grabs Helga, and they all go stand on a little spot in the center of the spiral stepping stones. And it's an elevator, and it sinks.
It takes them down into this huge cavern that is dominated by this pool of water over which floats a bunch of floating burial masks of old Atlantean kings that are floating around that huge glowing ball of light that we saw at the very beginning of the movie.
These burial masks range from half as tall as a person to twice as tall as a person.
They are enormous.
They are big stone.
And they're hovering, as is the crystal, and it's a huge distance over water. And Kita sees this and kind of bows and says they're the kings of the past. And Rourke is like, all right, come on, we've got a schedule to keep. And Milo actually turns to him at some point and he's like, okay, there's a giant crystal hovering 150 feet over our heads over a bottomless pit of water. Doesn't anything surprise you?
Right?
And he's like, hey, go faster, figure out how this works. And he's like, okay, I've got a great idea. Why don't you translate and I'll wave the gun around?
And he's got the tone of someone telling a personal trainer, hey, who's paying you? You get on the treadmill and I'll eat the f***ing croissant.
Rourke looks at this pool, he kicks a rock into it, and all of these lights in there turn from this serene blue into a bright red.
That's bad. That's bad when the lights go red.
And these searchlights come out.
Yeah, it's the same red we saw at the start of the movie.
This is the bit in the video game where you gotta sneak through the searchlights to get through to the objective and flip the switch.
Yeah, right?
Exactly.
And then one of the searchlights, while Rourke and Milo are arguing, finds Kita, and it turns blue. And her crystal lifts. And her eyes turn blue.
And she says a word just before her eyes turn blue. We hear her say a word, which we remember from the start of the movie, something along the lines of Martin, which means mother. It's the same thing she said when her mother was taken.
And Kita starts walking towards the pool. Her face is slack. Her eyes are glowing like she's in a trance. Milo is trying to explain to Rourke that the crystal is alive somehow, and he notices Kita, and she turns around and she says to him in Atlantean, "All will be well, Milo Thatch. Be not afraid."
She said the thing.
Because things are always going to go so fine and normal when someone tells you to be not afraid.
Say, if the Bible tells us everything, be not afraid is a super cool thing and nothing weird is about to happen.
You should definitely be afraid. Just at least a little. At least a little be afraid.
God.
And then Rourke asks him, what did she say? And he's like, I don't know, I didn't catch it.
Of course, also, this is a point where it's like, I get really mad about this line because it's like, oh, all will be well, be not afraid. And then everything goes bad because nothing is going to happen here. You'd think this is a wink and a tap on the side of the nose. It's like, hey, don't worry. But yes, worry.
You think this is going to be the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, where she's possessed by the thing and she nukes the bad guys and the good guys are okay because they don't look.
No.
But no, we have to have 30 more minutes of movie.
30 more minutes of movie. So what happens? Kita walks on water across the surface of the water to the crystal. It's this really cool looking scene. The crystal, opens up. She floats up into it. The king's masts spin faster and faster around her, and crystal is absorbed. It reforms into Kita's body, and she is this glowing crystalline woman.
It's incredible. It's some really beautiful art.
And from the moment it forms into her, the masks drop out of the sky like bombs.
Oh my god, it's this rad fucking scene where she slowly descends to the surface of the water and walks back to Milo across the water in slow motion. Like, everything else is in real time. She is in slow motion. Her hair is slowly moving in an unfelt breeze as these rocks just slowly crash around her. Like, bam, bam, bam.
They're splashing water everywhere.
And the camera doesn't move, and then these house-sized rocks are landing around her, and she doesn't move, and neither does the camera. It's very cool.
It rules, actually.
They splash water all over her, and the water doesn't touch her. It avoids her like an invisible globe is around her. Amazing.
She gets back to Milo and Rourke and Helga and just keeps walking. And Milo's like, wait, don't touch her. And then she just keeps walking. I guess they go back up the surface because then they put a box around her.
Yeah, they get Audrey to weld a box around her.
It's just cut straight to her being bolted into this strange box. And then to save animating the inside of it, she tilts her head back and fogs up the inside.
So this is now the Kita crate. This is now Kita for the rest of the movie. Kita is now fully an object.
This is now the woman in the box. Mm-hmm.
And it's implied that there's crystal inside, because later we'll see that the glass has been turned to crystal.
But,
by her energy inside.
Don't worry about it.
She's now a MacGuffin.
Kita has stopped being a character at the moment.
I mean, that said, Milo does get to go do some cool shit right now, but because he did the special cutscene earlier, and he built up his relationship meter with the supporting cast, he gets a special speech check option.
That's true.
He hits X to shame the mob.
He starts out he guilts every single named character with everything they said. It's like, oh yeah, Vinny, you're going to have a ton of flower shops. Oh yeah, Audrey, you can open up that second machine shop with your dad, huh?
I'm sure he'll be real proud of you.
Oh, also important news. Important news for everyone. I just need you to know Helga's shirt strap has fallen off her shoulder because at some point she took off her turtleneck and she's now in a tank top, and that tank top strap is off her shoulder, and this is very important.
It's very important.
It is critically important.
It is so important.
Also, standing all around them are a bunch of Atlantean people, just civilians, who are standing around.
Yeah.
They greatly outnumber these soldiers.
Just standing.
And this crew. And they just stand there. They don't yell. They don't protest. They don't even look anything except mildly dejected. They don't even look grieving. They don't even look bereaved.
Yeah, it looks like they don't know what's going on.
If only there was some skinny-ass white boy to save all these brown people from themselves.
Right?
If only they had the knowledge of the root of all languages so I could understand what the hell is going on. But instead, no, Rourke, whose face has gone fully skeletal at this point, taunts them and then tells Milo that he's lost everything, and he hits Milo. He knocks him flat. Because, reminder, he's about twice Milo's size.
Oh,
he's
yeah?
a big man, and Milo is a skinny little dork. And he punches him over and steps on his picture of his grandfather. Leaves Milo his glasses, though. So we don't get it's not fair. It's not fair.
There was time, though.
There was going to be time. Then Audrey is the first to break.
Yeah.
She says, "F this, actually.
She sits at the wheel, she looks back at Milo, she groans, she definitely has a moment to herself where she's like, I can't believe I'm doing this. Gets out of the truck, marches over to Milo, helps him up, and holds his arm while scowling at Rourke.
And Vinny's next. Vinny comes, and then the rest.
Silently.
Mrs. Packard says, oh my god, we're all gonna die. But she then flicks her cigarette and goes anyway.
Yeah.
And there's this bit where Rourke is like, oh, so now you grow a conscience. And Vinny's like, oh, we've done a lot of things we're not proud of.
Oh my god, I got it. Can I do it?
Oh, do you want to do it? You want to do it? Go.
Hey, look, we've done a lot of things we're not proud of. Robbing graves, the plundering tombs, double parking. But nobody got hurt. Well, maybe somebody got hurt, but nobody we knew.
Which is so like the Disney off-screen death thing, right? It's like, well, nobody we knew died.
Yeah, and Rourke says, oh, well, fine, whatever, you can stay with him, bigger split for me. And he says P.T. Barnum was right. Now, which P.T. Barnum quote do you think he said? Do you think it was, the noblest art is that of making others happy?
I don't think so.
Fortune always favors the brave?
Probably not.
Never helps a man, doesn't help himself?
No.
Every man's occupation should be beneficial to his fellow man as profitable to himself. All else is vanity and folly?
I love doing racism and abusing animals.
Oh, wait. Oh, I know. It's the one about a sucker being born every minute.
Ah, there you go.
There we got it.
P.T. Barnum said a lot of shit, you guys.
Yeah. Also, just for good measure, they blow up the bridge that's the only way in and out on a vehicle.
Milo goes to run after them, and Vinny has to go, wait a second. And the bridge explodes with the fire of 1,000 suns. And then Vinny goes, okay, now you can go.
Also,
I love him. He's the best.
Sweet wasn't in this scene because it turns out he was with the king because I guess they were already planning on abandoning Sweet anyway because he wasn't in any of the sequence.
Yeah, he was going to stay behind anyway.
Sweet was just here being a doctor because Sweet is the best.
He's worked out that from the beating, the king's got internal bleeding, and he's old enough that that's enough that he is dying.
Yeah, Milo is like, wait, there's some healing energy with the crystals. Hey, remember that? I completely forgot until he mentioned it at this point that the crystals had healing energy.
Yeah, she healed a cut on my shoulder this one time. It was a long part of the movie ago.
But the king is like, no. And he has some parting words from Milo. He's like, Kita's been chosen like her mother. Allow me to explain what the hell's been going on in this movie. Sort of, not really.
Yeah, we don't actually understand what's going on by the end of it.
The times of danger, the crystal will choose a host, one of royal blood to protect itself and its people. It will accept no other. The crystal thrives on the collective emotions of all who came before us. In return, it provides power, longevity, protection. It developed a consciousness of its own. In my arrogance, I sought to use it as a weapon of war, but its power grew too great to control, and it overwhelmed us and led to our destruction. And also, if Kita remains bonded to the crystal, she could be lost to it forever. And all of that is nonsense and doesn't really explain anything and comes at the last minute and is basically the only saving grace here is that Leonard Nimoy is such a good fucking actor that he could deliver this and not make it sound completely ridiculous.
Yeah, it sounds like he's someone who's dying and realizing his own hubris as he says this gibberish.
In my arrogance, I used it as a weapon of war? What are you talking about?
Against who?
Are you trying to explain what the flood was? Because how is that connected to anything? War against who?
Yeah, right?
I went back and watched the prologue again after this scene, specifically trying to identify it. It's like, okay, well, is it clear that they were attacking someone and like the backlash hit it? But frankly, the prologue is so fast that it's almost like the ships teleport in and then the shockwave from their teleportation makes the wave. You can kind of work out that, oh, these are fighters coming back from war and something's just happened far in the... It's not clear. None of it's clear.
No, like, did he use it as a weapon of war to create the Leviathan or something? What the hell? What the hell are you talking about, Leonard?
It does kind of backfill some of the stuff about how the civilization is crumbling, right? Their culture is getting smaller and smaller. And it's like, okay, well, if it's meant to be a self-sustaining source from the emotions of the past or whatever, right? Eventually, you stop bringing in stuff and you're still feeding off the same battery. You're going to start to run out.
Sure.
And that's in theory why the crystals are getting dimmer and stuff. But again, that's an intuition that I've had watching this movie twice in the last 48 hours. I don't know if anybody else got that.
I didn't get that. That didn't occur to me.
Yeah, there's no official consensus here. Milo's like, so you hid the crystal to keep history from repeating itself? And it's like, what does that mean? So nobody would use the crystal as a weapon of war, so Kita wouldn't get absorbed by the crystal or something? What the hell's going on, Leonard?
Yeah, also the power source that chooses a champion in an hour of need to go and do something, that's Captain Universe. That's the hero that could be you from Marvel Comics. It's Captain Universe, guys.
But it's also, it chooses a host to protect itself, and by protect itself, I mean just sort of walk in a straight line to let somebody build a box around it and take it away without giving it any sort of resistance at all.
That was such a weird thing. I still don't understand that.
The last time there was a box like this with something inside it was the Ark of the Covenant, and it melted a bunch of Nazis. That's more than this thing does.
Yeah, why isn't this melting any Nazis?
Melt some f***ing Nazis.
Honestly, we'd need more Nazi melting boxes.
Honestly.
Just lying around.
The king says, the burden's now on Milo. White man, please go and save my ancient civilization.
This was going to be my daughter's burden, but now it is you, white guy who speaks language better than we can.
And so while all this is happening and the king slowly dies and says he has to return the crystal and save Atlantis and save my daughter, it all happens. There's a big musical flourish. And then Dr. Sweet, who's been in the background this entire time, goes, so what are we doing?
Sweet is so good.
I followed you in here, I'll follow you out.
Milo goes through this whole thing of like, all of my decisions have led to this colossal mistake. I have done everything wrong. Rourke is probably going to sell the crystal to the Kaiser because it's 1914 and World War I is happening. And Sweet's like, all right, when you hit bottom, the only place to go is up, which is something that I learned from your grandfather. So, what do?
We are going to get a stern look on our face.
He gets his determined face on, and then he says, I'm going after Rourke, and Audrey has to go, that's crazy. And he's like, I didn't say it was the smart thing, but it is the right thing. And then, Joss Whedon, you've snuck in again. This was a year and a half before Firefly.
You reckon that was Whedon's line?
Gotta be, because the thing is, it's the line from Serenity is, if you can't do something smart, you do something right.
Huh.
Oh,
Exactly. Years before.
I think you're onto something.
Here's the thing, though.
Huh.
Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good line, even in this part of the movie where I'm like,
It's good, though.
It's a good line.
We can go with that. Fuck Joss Whedon.
The plan they come up with is colossally stupid. It is great, though.
Yeah. So Milo climbs on top of one of those old flying fish machines, and some Atlanteans are like, hello, dumpy white guy. Oh my god, teach me to fly! Teach me to use ship! Oh my god! You're so good!
This had me checking when Battlefield Earth came out where the cavemen learned how to use F-14s.
Oh no.
Nothing good as Tyrannosaurs and F-14s, though.
I know. It's so cool and so stupid. All of the team come together and they say they're going to help. And they primarily so that Milo doesn't hurt himself.
This is their dorky idiot, and they have to protect him now. They've handled it. His grandfather won't take him back. He's dead.
He even gets his own little flying ship that's his own shape, so it's distinct from everyone else's.
Exactly.
It's a hammerhead shark.
So you can buy the toy.
He gets the cool one, and Cookie snaps his double-barreled shotgun shut and says, saddle up, partners, bring jerky and ammo. Which fucking rules. I'm sorry, it rules so hard.
All right, so we're back in the volcano shaft where they're like, this probably goes all the way up to the surface. And they're like, yeah, we're going to go to the surface now. So they shoot a gigantic, I don't know. This is Munitions Team. You guys take this one.
It's a little baby howitzer they have at the bottom.
It's oddly well detailed too.
Again, this is Gunsmith Cats, the movie.
Yeah.
They shoot it up. It makes a hole in the ceiling. You can even see a shaft of sunlight come down on Rourke's face.
Oh my god, you guys, listen. There is a nod to the speed of sound. There is a short pause between the explosion in the distance and the boom.
That's how far it is.
Now, it's not a realistic duration, but it's still not the kind of thing I've seen in an animated movie. I've never seen them actually really acknowledge the speed of sound before.
So they load up the Kita crate onto this red balloon dirigible that is actually one of the ones that Milo handled the model of at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
It's so cool. The balloon's inside this big barrel wagon, and then they inflate it using compressed hydrogen, presumably. And it inflates.
It's cool.
It's really neat.
It's got propellers on the bottom.
And it's enormous. It's like building sides. And yeah, it's got little balloons on the side that help it steer. It's so cool.
It really is.
Buy all our playsets and toys, you guys. So, they realize halfway to the lava shaft that they don't have a plan. And Milo's like, we're gonna come in low and fast, and we're gonna take them by surprise. With what, Milo? Strong language?
Right?
Jesus, you have no guns. Like, some of the Atlanteans have bows and arrows, but nobody has any guns. They're just riding on these fish machines, which Vinny gets to point out. He's like, hey, do you have something kind of sportier, like a tuna?
Yeah.
It's dumb. I love it. And so they get there, and Audrey is saying that, look, Rourke is never surprised. He has many guns. We are going to have so many holes in us. But then, not only does Rourke have guns. Oh my God, I can't believe I get to say this as I said it out loud when watching the VHS in 2002. He has catapult launched, single wing fabric fighter planes that he launches from the back of a wagon.
These things rule.
Oh my God.
It's so cool. Oh my God.
They even put this in the prequel video game. These things rule.
Right? It's so freaking cool.
So now we have a dogfight between flying fish ships and fabric planes with machine guns. This fully rules, and it's incredibly stupid.
It's so cool.
And it's only halfway through that they accidentally find out that the fish shoot lasers.
Yeah.
Because Vinny leans on the wrong button, and it blows a hole through one of the ships, and he looks like he has not lived before this moment. He's so happy.
Oh my God.
Like, at one point, he shoots one directly in front of him, and the soot washes over him, and it washes away, and all you see are his eyes, which are as wide as saucers, and a tiny little smile on his face. Like, oh my God.
God, this is the best day ever.
Oh.
So their target is to try and get to the red dirigible. Helga is shooting at a lot of the fish ships. She's on it. So is Rourke. Sweet and Audrey have landed on top of the Kita crate and try to saw it off with Sweet's bone saw.
Instead of, using these beam weapons to shoot the bloody balloons. Why?
Also, Mrs. Packard is riding shotgun with Cookie. Cookie is blasting away from the top of this fish, and Mrs. Packard has her camera out. My girl.
Oh my God. Good for her.
She's leaning off the fish with this gigantic Kodak tourist camera, which, if we had our cameras on, you can see I've got one behind me. It's like got the flashbulb out in her hands and ka-chunk. Oh, Marge is going to love this one.
She hasn't taken photos throughout the movie, but we have to establish that you have to imply that she has been taking them throughout the movie so that we can have this moment.
Yeah.
While they're trying to saw off the Kita crate, Milo launches his little hammerhead shark fish into one of the, supporting balloons on the dirigible and lands on the netting of the main one.
Once again, accepting that he had no plan and this is a really stupid idea.
Right?
Oh, yeah. And one of their balloons is down, so they are not climbing as fast as they should. So Helga...
Oh, boy.
Because she is smart and brave and beautiful.
Oh, boy. Oh, my God, this scene.
She starts tossing some stuff overboard, and she's like, well, that's everything unless somebody wants to jump. And Rourke picks her up, tosses her over, and says, ladies first.
And then...
But oh, folks.
It's time.
Then...
Go on, honey. This is all you.
Helga's back!
This is all you, honey. Go for it.
Feet first! Kicks him square in the face, and then starts beating the shit out of Rourke, yelling, you said we were partners! You promised me a percentage! The way that she is animated is so fluid and gorgeous. She's got this braid over her shoulder. Her hair is spilling out. Everything about her is incredible with the way she is animated.
Yes, I love her so much.
Everything about her has been restrained up until this point. This is her furious.
And she's like, you promised me a percentage. And Rourke says, next time, get it in writing. And he gets the best of her, throws her over, and says nothing personal.
God.
And she falls this time.
She falls all the way down.
All the way down.
Oh, but again, it's a hell of a scene. There are many gifs of different bits of this scene all over Tumblr.
This is a gorgeously animated sequence with a hot-ass woman.
It's amazing. However, she does land on the pumice ash.
It's soft.
That's true. It's softer. We found this before.
Mm-hmm. And while Rourke is now busy dealing with Milo, Helga pushes herself up from the ground, clearly in pain. And she has that flare gun.
And what does she say, Annie? What does she say?
She grunts out, nothing personal.
Yes.
And launches the flare gun right into the balloon, which explodes.
goes kablooey.
Hell yeah.
Here's what I love about Rourke. What I love about Rourke is that he sees this explosion, and he's like, well, fuck it. I guess I'll use this hand axe to hack a nerd to death.
Yeah, also, Milo's incredibly bad at fighting. He gets his ass handed to him by Rourke. He gets one moment where he kind of goes, ah, and jumps on him, and then Rourke beats the dog shit out of it.
I appreciate that at no point does Milo get good at fighting.
No, I love that you can feel the difference in weight class between them. The effortless difference in simple mass that each of them has, with Rourke just catching Milo's punch, smashing it back into his own face, and then booting him off the side with a kick. It's as simple as that.
When Rourke is trying to hack this nerd to death, one of his swings goes past Milo and smashes into the little porthole of the Kita box.
Yeah.
As he holds Milo over it to hit him again, Milo grabs a chunk of glass, which is now a glowing crystal thanks to Kita's energy, and slashes Rourke's arm with it to get him to drop him.
Yeah, he just slices it across.
Then some shit happens.
Rourke immediately mutates into a crystal monster covered in red veins. Immediately. Within 5 seconds.
He turns into a statue and he's held for a second. You even see Milo relax. He's like, oh, well, that's done then. And then the crystal golem moves and tries to kill him.
And then in 5 more seconds, he gets caught in the spinning blades of the dirigible and shatters into a billion pieces.
And he died somehow.
That is the fastest gnarly Disney villain death.
Yeah, it's wild.
Short of Gaston plummeting over a cliff.
Here's the issue, though. So Helga's incredibly cool, sick, nasty moment has caused the rest of the balloon to hit the floor where Helga was, and big explosions are going off as the various tanks and canisters start to explode, and Mole has to be the one. The trained geologist has to be the one to remember, right, we're sitting on a volcano? The volcano? She awakes?
Fun story here. This is the last thing we have ever seen of Helga. Is nothing personal. Mm-hmm. Fun story. They were going to try to make a TV show sequel to this, kind of like an Aladdin adventure show. That didn't work, and it got slapped up into a 3-episode sequel direct-to-VHS movie. Apparently Helga was going to be the villain in that.
Do you know what she was going to be as the villain?
I don't know what you mean.
She was going to be brought back as a freaking cyborg.
Whoa.
Oh, dang it.
Whoa.
We missed out on so much.
Speaking of things we missed out on, remember I said I had a theory about Helga in the chat, Anna?
Yeah.
You were talking about Helga's gun and how it shouldn't have a magazine, but it does.
Yeah.
Do you know what I noticed the first time, and I thought I fooled myself until I watched it the second time?
What did you notice about her removal magazine?
Helga never fires her gun on screen.
Yep.
Really?
She reloads it, she points it. We then get the reverse shot of her target and bullets winging past. But she never actually fires the thing.
No way, you're so right.
She'll point, the reverse shot, the bullet will go and hit the thing, and then turn back and she's got a smoking gun. There's no on-screen muzzle flash, purely for Helga. All the goons get to shoot stuff, Rourke gets to shoot stuff, Helga doesn't.
She's a lady.
That is fascinating.
What's up with that?
The hell?
It's weird, isn't it?
She's a lady. It would be distinctly unfeminine if she fired a gun.
Yeah, jeez. She fires a flare gun, that's fine.
Anyway, we gotta wrap this one up.
So we killed the antagonist, but now there's a volcano.
Yeah, and there's a whole thing where they have to fly out with the volcano, with the magma or lava or whatever spewing around. They almost don't get the key to crate winch correctly, but Milo wraps the chain around it, and he rides that as they escape back to Atlantis.
Because they've got to save her, because she's the key to the city.
She's an object.
Yeah.
It's super cool.
But, I know she's strong, but she's so human, so fragile, you know?
Lucas, I'm gonna kill everything!
Oh my god!
That was a critical hit. Oh, mercy. So, when Kita gets back, her touching the floor, re-empowers the city. All the stone head masks refloat.
Yeah, even all the walls of the crate that she was in just, float around her, spinning.
It is a classic effect for a reason. It looks cool as hell.
Mm-hmm.
And then she raises the stone giants from the mural out of the water at the edge of the city, and they linked together to create an energy shield with some of the same JPEG artifacting as the ray of the Leviathan, but it is much smoother now because it's so close to the source. It's not an old, decrepit Leviathan at the bottom of the ocean for 1,000 years. This is new. This is feeding off the new energy that she's supplying. And as such, they put up a wall, and the pyroclastic flow goes right over them, and it gets cooled by that into a ball of rock, which then the energy comes through, and it looks like woodworm. It's going in these crazy zigzag patterns all through it, and then it shatters, and it goes away.
And then, like, parts of the plateau around the giants breaks down too, and new water starts to drain off of the side of the plateau of Atlantis.
And then suddenly, Kita's back. She's back as a person again.
I guess the power's just done with her. They just, like, throw her out, like, okay, here's your girl back.
Yeah.
And she's like, what? Milo?
Captain Universe has to move on to the next character, the hero who could be you.
She got away, even though her mother didn't. What's in her hand?
She opens her hand and finds the bangle that she had when she was a little kid that her mother took with her.
And the city's awake again. It's empowered. The plasma energy chamber has re-energized a golden age of Cybertron, and now we can end the show.
Kita gives everybody crystals, and they all get to go home in a big ship shaped like a narwhal.
Oh, not just crystals.
With lots and lots of gold.
So much gold.
They have so much treasure.
They're like, it's fine. We don't need much apart from this Volkswagen-sized pile of gold you've given each of us.
God.
We'll be fine.
Milo, though, has chosen to stay because a pretty girl thinks he's cute.
And there's an opening for an expert in gibberish.
Yeah, and Vinny says, I'm going to reopen the flower shop, and I'm going to think of you guys every single day. Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, Saturday until 2. Sunday, I'll take Sunday off probably. Maybe I'll go for a couple hours. Maybe August, I'm going to take August, and then someone cuts him off. I'm sure that actor would have kept going.
Cookie gives him the bacon grease from the whole trip.
God.
Oh, God. Biohazard.
Audrey gives him 2 for flinching. 2 little friend punches.
But she also gives him a big cheek kiss. It's very cute.
Sweet gives him a big hug, cracks his neck again, and they all take a photograph together.
They give the camera, Mrs. Packard's camera, this big extendy accordion thing, to one of the Atlanteans. And they all pose, and it takes the photo. It does that thing in the movie where them posing for the photo becomes the photo with the snap of the shutter. And in the photo, everyone's heads are cut off because you've given it to an Atlantean who doesn't know what a camera is.
Yeah, right?
And they give the photo, along with some of the others, to Mr. Whitmore. And he takes the photo, and it's really tight, like the whole frame encompasses the photo, and then he takes it down, and there's our crew, all in the fabulously wealthy clothes. They look ridiculous. Audrey has Milo's cat.
Audrey has Milo's cat. Fluffy gets a new home. Fluffy gets a new human.
And he says, let's go over it again.
Let me get it straight. You didn't find anything. Nope. Just rocks and fish, little fish, sponges. What about Helga?
She's missing.
And then Cookie has to go and go, oh.
Yeah, we lost her when a flaming zeppelin comes down on her.
Until Mrs. Packard smacks him on the head with a parasol.
Missing.
What about Rourke?
You could say he went all to pieces.
And they say, you might say he was transmogrified, then busted into his alien. Whack! He's missing too.
And what about Milo?
He went down with the sub.
I'm going to miss that kid. What a shame he died.
And while this happens, Mr. Whitmore is going through all of these photographs of Milo and Kita holding hands, of everybody having a good time, enjoying themselves. There's been a lot of pictures taken. It's really sweet.
It is. And at the very bottom of the letters, there is a small package tied with string to Mr. Whitmore. And he opens it up.
It's the creased up photograph of Milo and his grandfather, and there's some writing on it. It says, I hope this little piece of proof is enough for you.
It sure convinced me. Signed, Milo.
And it's a crystal.
And Mr. Whitmore puts it on.
It's a crystal from Atlantis, and Mr. Whitmore puts it on.
It's so cute.
Also, meanwhile, the dirt pervert has taken off all of his clothes and has buried himself inside a potted plant.
Yeah, it's weird.
Because he was fancy for a grand total of 5 seconds.
He has to be a fancy dirt pervert.
And then we cut back to Atlantis. Milo and Kita got a costume change. Kita's actually queen. She's actually a Disney princess character that gets to be a queen.
Yeah. She's got more tattoos.
And Milo got a new tattoo.
Milo's got some tattoos now too, and Kita's wearing like a full-on dress with a nice headdress, very reminiscent of her mother's. And they're putting the final touches on a massive stone burial mask that looks like her father.
And Kita infuses it with energy, and it floats up to join all of the other masks, which are now circling the city slowly. And, like, there's this cool thing of Kita and Milo climbing up to that same vista that they did before to survey the city from the center of it.
Yes.
And this is apparently one of the most complicated shots that Disney Animation had ever done before. Again, look at the Wikipedia page for it. It's really, really cool shit the way it works.
It's so interesting. Go look it up, please.
As the camera pulls away from them to reveal Atlantis, it starts off with a 16-inch piece of paper, and by the time it pulls away, it's reached the equivalent of an 18,000-inch piece of paper composed of as many individual pieces of paper, 24 inches or smaller. Every piece was carefully drawn and combined, vehicles simultaneously flying across to see a complete integrated image. Staggering effort.
It's amazing.
Yeah, this is using a technique eWorks actually pioneered of layering all these different types of cells to create like foregrounds, backgrounds, and midgrounds that actually moved at the appropriate lengths and frames and everything. Like, it's some of the most interesting shit.
It's so good.
And that's the end of the movie.
And that's it.
And that's Atlantis.
We did it. Holy crap, we only recorded for 3 hours.
There's half of a really, really good movie.
Yeah, the first half, it's great.
And another half of a movie that's fine.
It's
frustrating.
There was a wonderful treasure hunt, and what was at the end was... it was alright, I guess.
Here's a cool girl. Now she's going to literally become an object for the rest of the movie, and we all applaud the white boy who knows how to indigenous better than anyone.
Yeah.
And all of our cool incidental characters are just going to go shoved off into a closet for a while until they become evil.
You guys, you didn't have to pump the brakes halfway through. You could have just kept it rolling. It would have been a wild ride. And lost potential. You know how it is.
I mean, hell, even Mr. Toad goes to hell at the end of his wild ride.
That's true.
You do go to hell at the end of the ride.
I gotta say, this was absolutely worth revisiting. I have not seen this movie since 2002.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, like you were saying, there's a lot of good stuff in there. It's just in the service of this thing that doesn't have the depth it wants to. Like, I honestly would have thought this would be kind of sick as, like, it's such an edgelord thing to say, but as, like, a cartoon for an adult audience, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
like imagine this kind of thing as like something like Gendy Tartakovsky would do.
Yeah. And like have the stuff be actually scary and have, stakes, and I could almost see this as being just a really killer miniseries.
Or even think about those Hellboy animated movies that they put out. It definitely feels like this is the kind of thing where there is more space these days, at least in some format, to tell like a short form miniseries style retelling of this, because it would fit that so well. It has such a good ensemble cast, and there's so many spaces to have like spotlight episodes and fill these things out, because so much of this is character driven.
Yeah.
Although the problem is that the characters don't drive to anything.
It reminds me, there's a mid-aughts comic book series called Submariner the Deep, which I just read like 2 months ago for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Namor as a cosmic horror story where like a submarine goes down to debunk Atlantis, and so much is used of like how black the sea is down there. And in the middle of certain scenes where the people are discussing things on the bridge, you'll see a handprint appear and disappear, or a face appear at a window, and nothing is made of it. It's super scary.
That rules.
It proper rules. I've recommended that series a bunch of times to some friends.
Is it Submariner the Depths from 2008?
Yes, The Depths. Sorry, I misspoke. Yeah, that's the one. It's on Marvel Unlimited if you want to read it, if you've got that. It's a breezy read. It's like 5 issues. It's gorgeously painted. Scary as hell.
I can't wait.
Namor turning up as this like sharp-toothed, black-eyed humanoid monstrosity.
Oh, I'm so excited.
It's pretty fucking cool. This Atlantis story could be told in a way where it's cool for adults and it keeps the stuff that works, without having to be beholden to this narrative. We got to make it friendly for the kids. We got to make it about reviving the city. We got to slow it all down at the end.
Or even not necessarily like adult only, but like this has a really healthy young adult audience.
There you go.
I would really love to see a version of this with all the slapstick cut out, because that's where a lot of...
What's slapstick, by the way?
Slapstick might not be the right word. I'm talking about, like, goofy shit, like, hey, we have a French dirt pervert who has made mounds of dirt with flag on them on your bed, instead of, just a weird guy who is kind of grounded, pun absolutely intended, but also kind of interesting. Like, I'd love to see a different version of that.
Maybe. I mean, as much as I don't care for the dirt pervert, I think you do need a certain amount of levity, otherwise this wouldn't work.
Yes, I agree, and also I think there's a different way to do levity, which I'd love to see, like, an alternate universe take on. But that's what we're discussing, so, yeah.
Alright, so I think that pretty much brings us up to final facts, right?
Yeah, I think it does.
Annie, what's your final fact?
Linguists never, ever, ever go halfway.
It's true. It's true. Oh, you're so right.
Ever.
Linguists have no chill at all.
Linguists have no chill. Parentheses, respectfully.
Yeah, no, they're great.
Lucas, what's your final fact?
Look, if the time comes where I pass on and I move on to whatever comes after this world, and you want to do a burial mask of me to hang up near the giant crystal where it's floating with the kings of old to respectfully show me as being part of that pantheon, don't make it look like I just stepped on a piece of Lego in the middle of the night.
Oh, you're so right.
The king looks so pained in that picture. Oh my god.
He does.
If it had a noise, it would be going, All right, Anna, what's your final fact?
Return all the stolen artifacts. Empty your museums. Fuck you all.
Take it back where it belongs. It's not yours.
It's not yours.
It belongs in a museum if the people who own it say you can put it in a museum.
Exactly. And maybe you can borrow it on a traveling exhibit.
Give me Kehi Kwan in a series as Short Round, returning the stuff to the people.
I'm just glaring at the British Museum. It's disgraceful.
It's infuriating.
Absolutely the worst. Okay, well, I think that does it for us. The great news is that I actually know what our next one is after this. Usually I don't with the Wolfpäcs. But join us next time for the main I Will Fight You team, because we're going to be talking about Bumblebee, which is a horse girl movie.
It's the only good Transformers movie.
I can't wait. I'm really excited to talk about that one.
It's the good one, and then Transformers 1 is the other good one.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But it's a reboot, so that's fine. It's good. My dumb Transformers nerd ass liked it.
It's going to be great. In the meantime, I believe Anna wants to try the outro this time.
Yes. Okay.
Go on, Anna, you can do it.
I Will Fight You comes out every 5 weeks. It is edited by my very good friend Lucas Brown of the Matthew View, this man right here.
That's him.
If you'd like to support us, a like, rating, review, subscribe, wherever you get your podcast would be so very appreciated. It helps our ratings. It helps us get discovered. You should come and talk to us. We are on CRC Podcasts at bluesky.social. We have a sad, lingering presence on twitter.com/CRC Podcasts.
I'm not even going to bother with that one anymore, honestly.
Honestly, yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. It's 90% Nazis by volume over there.
Basically. And we do have a Discord server. It is all on our website at crookedrussiancam.horse or crookedrussiancam.gay. We are also on Patreon. If you like I Will Fight You, as well as any of our other shows, at patreon.com/thejamjam. You can give us money if you feel like it. You can get early episodes of the show there, as well as show notes and other behind-the-scenes stuff for our other shows, Date Me Damn It and Gem Jammer, which I DM. And the money you give us goes towards paying our editors like Lucas here and keeping the lights on.
Pay us money. Give us money. Give us $5. We also have a Ko-fi. You can give us $5 there. Go to the website.
Hell yeah.
Coffee's expensive now.
Coffee's expensive, and Lucas and Jake both do good work. Give us compliments on social media and join our Discord to talk about our things. It's neat.
Yeah, please come and talk to us.
Show us pictures of your pets.
We have a whole channel for that.
I can show off the cool t-shirts that I bought.
Tell us you like us.
And Annie's been posting cool doodles from Gem Jammer, which she drew herself. They're really good. You should come see them.
Yeah, they rule.
No, hush. You can buy merchandise, by the way. We have a TeePublic, and Christina Woods created Wolfpäc merchandise.
You could buy a Wolfpäc shirt.
Yes! Oh my god, that reminds me. I need to get my own.
I have a purple one. It's awesome. It's the comfiest shirt ever.
It rules. It's great stuff. And the Wolfpäc logo is just fantastic.
tpublic.com/user/crookedrussiancam.
The most movie per movie, every movie.
I'm slowly trying to pressure Christina to make us like an NWO t-shirt, but it's I Will Fight You. And on the back it says become unfilmable. Just because I want it. I want it in my life.
You just got to commission her, man.
I know. I've offered money. She's busy.
We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. Okay. I think that's it. I think we're good.
Hell yeah.
So, join us next time for I Will Fight You for the regular team. Join us at some point coming up for Wolfpäc. We'll have another very, very too much movie for you.
Hell yes. Hell yes.
It's gonna be great, whatever the hell it is. And until then, I'm Annie.
I'm Lucas.
And I'm Anna.
And we have fought you.
Oh,
Wolfpäc! Oh!
Wolfpäc! Hey there, Internet. I'm Annie.
I'm Lucas.
And I'm Annie. No, shit.
Wow! Straight off. Boom.
This is why she's got to go last.
This is the first time that it's...
blew up on the launch pad. Boom.
This is the first time this has ever happened in our years of friendship. I've never gotten this mixed up before.
This is why she's got to go last. This is why we need the Lucas buffer in the middle.
Do you want to take on that?
And I'm Anna.
Age gap romance in this movie? Oh, no, cut that out. That's so stupid. That's so stupid.
I think the age gap is a little bigger.
Just a touch. That's so stupid.
No, but I will tell you, in the early days of our relationships, they did call me a grave robber, and I did call them a cradle snatcher.
Yeah.
Damn it, you can't step on my joke for later. Yeah, I got my Farnsworth.
Exactly.
I say she's robbing the cradle. I say I'm robbing the grave.
You got to get the Farnsworth joke in there.
Okay, you can cut that out and put it in the stinger or save it for later or just delete it or something.
Oh, the Spider Silk episode with the coffee is so good.
It's excellent. I hope everyone heard that thunder that just shook the whole f***ing building.
I did hear that thunder. Holy shit.
We invoked Ernest P. Worrell and the gods yelled at me.
I don't know. Maybe you're a whole bunch of Parshendi on the Shattered Plains. I don't know, man.
We can't talk about a Stormlight Archive, Eddie. So.
We can't talk about Shallan, who is my daughter and my daughter and my daughter and my daughter and my daughter?
She just loves a pattern.
She loves a pattern.
Loves a pattern. Loves a puzzle.
Focus, guys. We got an hour left.
Come on.
We got an hour left of this recording, guys. Let's focus up.
All right. Watashi wa star. No, this is gonna hit with no one except for me. So making the Italian song where she speaks Japanese and it goes Kira watashi wa star. It's a whole thing. I'll cut in a little bit. I'm not gonna sound crazy, I promise. So
we believe you.
There's a who's on first bit.
In the meantime, I believe Anna wants to try the outro this time.
Yes. Okay.
Go on, Anna. You can do it.
Here we go. I will cut.
Aha! Vindication!
Second time blew up on left.
Tripped on the starting block.
I will kite you thumbs out.
Nope.
No, it's...
No.
No.
You're getting worse. No, take it from the top. One more time. You got this.
Now, disregarding the failed launch, how'd I do?
I think that's everything.
Pretty good. If we don't count the massive explosion, you did pretty well.
Yeah.